thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of Americans. It's going to start with a half a dozen nuclear power plants around America or more melting down. It's going to start with entire states browning out as their power grids are shut down. It's going to start with attacks on our financial system where all our banks are shut down. No power, no communications, no water. With those things happening, American cities would become unlivable within a week. This is scary stuff, I don't mean to scare you. Well, maybe I do. We need to know about this, right? I mean, we can't just have our heads in the sand. The Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, presumably between drinks, has ordered the Pentagon, the American cybersecurity operation, to stop trying to block Putin's attempts to infiltrate our computer systems, our social media, and our military, frankly. Or at least that's my understanding of how this report works out. This was what Chuck Schumer said last week when this order came down. This news is a couple days old, but I wasn't here, so. Senator Chuck Schumer, quote, "Donald Trump is so desperate to earn the affection of a thug like Vladimir Putin, he appears to be giving him a free pass as Russia continues to launch cyber operations and ransomware attacks against critical American infrastructure, threatening our economic and national security. It is a critical strategic mistake for Donald Trump to unilaterally disarm against Putin." Again, this takes me back to Jeff Merkley and what Jeff Merkley had to say, just a couple of days ago. And Nate, cue up that video because I want you to. We played it in the first hour. This is something that every media in America should be playing. I sent this clip to Ali Velshi. In fact, I never, the last thing in the world that hosts want to get is story ideas from random people, but I just couldn't help myself. Here is my senator, United States Senator Jeff Merkley, questioning one of Donald Trump's nominees. He essentially repeated this with several of Trump's nominees. Here it is.
Is President Trump a Russian asset?
Absolutely not, Senator. He's the President of the United States, duly elected by the American people.
Well, the reason I ask is many people back home have been asking me this question. And they say, if he was an asset, we would see exactly what he's doing now. For example, he proceeded to forward or express from the Oval Office propaganda that has been Russian propaganda, that Ukraine started the war, that Zelensky is a dictator. Second of all, he gave away key things on the negotiating table before the negotiations even started, ensuring U.S. would absolutely oppose any possibility of NATO membership for Ukraine. Third, he's cut off the arms shipments to Ukraine, completely undermining their ability against a massive neighbor next door with short supply lines and huge resources. Fourth, he's undermined the partnership with Europe, which has been essential to security over the last 80 years, a major goal of Putin's. And then he's done everything to discredit and dismean Zelensky on the international stage with the just shameful press conference in which he teamed up with the vice president to attack Zelensky. I can't imagine that if he was a Russian asset, he could do anything more favorable than these 5 points. What else could a Russian asset actually possibly do that Trump hasn't yet done?
And the Trump guy at that point goes, well, Donald Trump is a real patriot. Yeah. Jeff Merkley, Senator Merkley, and if you live in Oregon, call his office, 202-224-3121, ask for Jeff Merkley, and thank him and encourage him to keep doing this. So how could an American conflict with Russia play out? I think this is an important question. Nicole Perlroth, who has been a guest on this program, wrote a book titled "This Is How They Tell Me the World Ends: The Cyber Weapons Arm Race." And she writes from 2012 to 2014, and I'm just going to quote from her book, quote, "Russian hackers made their way inside more than 1,000 companies in more than 84 countries, the vast majority of them here in the United States." She goes on to say that they made their way into hundreds of industrial control systems across the United States. By infiltrating our systems with worms and viruses and direct attacks. Again, a quote, "It wasn't just U.S. oil and gas companies anymore. Russian hackers infected the software updates that reached the industrial controllers inside hydroelectric dams, nuclear power plants, pipelines, and the national power grid, and were now inside the very computers that could unleash the locks at the dams, trigger an explosion, or shut down power to the grid. This action," she writes, "was not Chinese-style industrial espionage. Moscow was preparing the battlefield." She quotes a cybersecurity expert, a guy by the name of John Hultquist, who told her, quote, "This is the first stage in long-term preparation for an attack against the United States. There is no other plausible explanation." So if a war with Russia and the United States starts, it's not going to start with a nuclear bomb hitting New York. It's going to start with major dams opening and flooding downriver communities and killing thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of Americans. It's going to start with a half a dozen nuclear power plants around America or more melting down. It's going to start with entire states browning out as their power grids are shut down. It's going to start with attacks on our financial system where all our banks are shut down. No power, no communications, no water. With those things happening, American cities would become unlivable within a week. They would become absolute hellscapes. Now, people say, hey, come on, Tom, that's crazy. No country could do that. Russia would never do that. That's not going to happen. Well, let me tell you what happened on Christmas Eve 2015. Barack Obama and his staff, Hillary Clinton and a bunch of the military folks were in the Situation Room, and this was what they were watching. And this is from an article by Kim Zetter in Wired. And this was punishment to Ukraine. This was right after they expelled Viktor Yanukovych and elected a pro-Western president. Ukraine did, right? Quote, all he could do was stare helplessly. This is about a supervisor at Ukraine's main power station. All he could do was stare helplessly at his screen while the ghosts in the machine clicked open one breaker after another, eventually taking about 30 substations offline. The attackers didn't stop there, though. They also struck two other power distribution centers at the same time, nearly doubling the number of substations taking offline and leaving more than 230,000 Ukrainians in the dark. And as if that weren't enough, they also disabled backup power supplies to two of the three distribution centers, leaving operators themselves stumbling. In addition to bringing you the Thom Hartmann program here on Free Speech TV and Video Media Online, we also have a whole set of ways you can interact with us and tools you can use to spread the word about the importance of democracy and the threats to it in our republic. First, there's your daily homework. Sue Nethercutt puts together a daily email newsletter that has a link to every story I discuss on the air, so you can find my sources and you can share them with your friends. It's free and you can sign up at thomhartmann.com. Second, I publish my daily take every day over at the hartmannreport.com website. That's also free if you want the daily 5 days a week rant in your inbox. No ads either. Third, we have the podcasts. There's the free 1-hour version of our daily show that's advertising supported. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts normally. And then there's also the podcast of the entire 3-hour show with no advertisements, and that's available by subscription over at thomhartmann.com. So check them all out at thomhartmann.com and hartmannreport.com. Hey, it's day 3 here of the 2 weeks of our Spring Fund Drive here on Free Speech TV. And as always, Free Speech TV just has you. We really need your support, or Free Speech TV really needs your support. The funds go, straight to Free Speech TV, which is just, it's just amazing that we've got an entire television network here that's running on this little tiny budget. Some really dedicated people. Underpaid, overworked, and they're just doing great. The revolutionary figure highlight for the day, a new feature that the folks at Free Speech TV are sharing with us, is Chris Smalls. Chris Smalls wasn't some high-powered executive. He wasn't a politician. He was just a guy who was working at an Amazon warehouse. And when COVID hit and Amazon refused to protect its workers, Chris spoke up, and in return, Amazon fired him. Instead of disappearing, though, he got organized. He and his fellow workers built the first ever union at an Amazon facility. Amazon threw everything they had at him, spent millions of dollars on union busting, intimidation attacks, tactics, political attacks. But Chris and his team won anyway. So if you believe in workers' rights, if you believe in holding the powerful, people like Jeff Bezos accountable, if you believe in independent media that doesn't answer to billionaires like Free Speech TV, then we need you to step up right now. There's a lot of ways you can contribute to Free Speech TV, or at least 2 big ways that you can contribute to Free Speech TV. One is to make a monthly gift. The other is to do a one-time gift. You can do both at the same time if you call 877-378-8669. The one-time gifts, there are premiums, gifts that you get for giving a gift. With a $20 gift, you have your choice of the Elect a Clown, Expect a Circus bumper sticker, or the This Is Not Normal bumper sticker. With a $120 gift, you have your choice of the Talking About Abolition book by Sonali, or my book, The Hidden History of the American Dream, autographed by the author. With a $1,000 gift, there's all 10 of my books in the Hidden History series, all 10 books, each autographed by the author. A great gift, by the way. Or you can come here to Portland and hang out with us and do a meet and greet. So while you are considering how much of a gift you're going to give, and whether you're going to do a one-time gift, or whether you're going to, sign up to make $15 a month, or $30 a month, or $70 a month, or whatever works with your particular finances, while you're considering that, I mentioned on the program yesterday Mario Savio. Mario Savio was arguably the leader of the free speech movement at Berkeley back in 64 and 65. And this is a movement that really inspired student activism literally all around the world, and led directly to the major anti-Vietnam War protests and teach-ins and sit-ins and all kinds of other things that many of us participated with back in the 66, 67, 68, through the early 70s, when finally the Vietnam War was ended. So here is Mario Savio at Berkeley, at California's Berkeley campus, explaining the importance of civil disobedience. Here it is.
So here we are. 4 students are getting the axe. 6 organizations are getting the axe for standing up this semester and for fighting for these things. They're getting the axe not for what they did, but for what we have done. They spoke for us. They were part of us. They have been singled out, and they're going to be chopped off.
We were told the following: If President Kerr actually tried to get something more liberal out of the regents in his telephone conversations, why didn't he make some public statement to that effect? And the answer we received from a well-meaning liberal was the following. He said, would you ever imagine the manager of a firm making a statement publicly in opposition to his board of directors? That's the answer. Well, I ask you to consider, if this is a firm, and if the Board of Regents are the Board of Directors, and if President Kerr, in fact, is the manager, then I tell you something, the faculty are a bunch of employees, and we're the raw materials. But we're a bunch of raw materials that don't mean to have any process upon us, don't mean to be made into any product, don't mean to end up being bought by some clients of the university, be they the government, be they industry, be they organized labor, be they anyone. We're human beings. There's a time when the operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part. And you've got to put your bodies upon the gears and upon the wheels, upon the levers, upon all the apparatus, and you've got to make it stop. And you've got to indicate to the people who run it, to the people who own it, that unless you're free, the machine will be prevented from working at all.
There you go. Mario Savio. He passed away from a heart attack in 1996, by the way. But the student movements, this is specifically on the program yesterday, I was referencing the arrest of Mahmoud Khalil by the Trump administration, apparently signed off on by our Secretary of State, the former senator from Florida. This is just anyhow. This is the Free Speech TV fundraiser, not my program. So please call now, 877-378-8669, or go to freespeech.org/donate.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Well, it's the middle of the week, and the crazy train rolls on in Washington, D.C. It's amazing. There's this thing called the Hatch Act that says that you can't use federal property for commercial purposes. Yesterday, Donald Trump has 5 Teslas rolled out in front of the White House and gives a sales pitch. It's a crime. It's an actual crime that you can be prosecuted for, except that the Supreme Court said you can't prosecute Donnie because he's a special boy. Anyhow, the stock market continues to melt down. And actually, I'm not sure exactly where it is today. I should have looked. But the morbidly rich call this happy hour. We'll talk about that in a minute. Also, Elon Musk's $100 million power play. Is he buying influence or is he breaking democracy? Thanks to Clarence Thomas. We'll get to that in a few minutes. Also, why is the protester, Mr. Khalil, Mahmoud Khalil, seized by Trump being kept in a notoriously violent ICE facility, a private prison down in Louisiana? What the hell is going on with this? In the second hour of our program, Jaime Raskin has asked for our help. If enough citizens demand their records, DOGE may be forced into the light, potentially revealing a deeply troubling mass surveillance system involving both the U.S. government and heavy-duty tech figures like Musk and X and things like that. I mean, this is weird. I'll tell you all about it in the second hour of the program. And also in the second hour, why was the wholesale shredding of government documents just ordered at USAID? Is it evidence that could prove or disprove the Musk accusations of waste, fraud, and abuse? Or is it stuff that could prove, how Musk has been spying on us and things? I don't know. We'll see. We'll find out. We'll talk about that in the second hour. And also, some good news. Bernie gets some tractions from the GOP. Yeah, the GOP, although I think it's BS, but I'll tell you about that on Medicare covering dental, vision, and hearing in the second hour of the program. In the third hour of the program, will a worldwide boycott of America work? It is happening. I'll give you the details. And Greenlanders just had an election, and they let the world know what they think of Donald Trump. I'll give you the details on that in the third hour of the program. My op-ed today for HartmannReport.com is titled Stock Market Meltdown. The morbidly rich call it happy hour. And, it's basically, we've talked about this before. Recessions, 10 of the last 11 recessions were started on Republican presidents' watch. And I would argue were started by Republican presidents. Every time you do a major tax cut, you get a recession. I mean, it's just real simple. And the reason why is also fairly simple. All kinds of extra money is going to the very, very rich. And the tax cuts are typically accompanied by cutbacks in government services. When Reagan did his tax cut, he then cut funding for education. He cut food stamps. He cut Medicaid. Those cuts then, dial back services. People get laid off. They're unemployed. They're not buying things, and the country goes into recession. This, by the way, is exactly what back on December 18th, this was before Trump was even sworn in, the Congressional Budget Office predicted. They predicted that the economy would shrink and that we would see more inflation as a result of Trump's policies. Now, the inflation hasn't shown up so far. There was an inflation report this morning, and it came in fairly steady. Things seem to be doing okay. But then yesterday, the new Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney, announced, who, by the way, was formerly the president of the Bank of Canada and the Bank of England. This guy understands economics, particularly macroeconomics. He announced that he's issuing U.S. dollar-denominated bonds this week, which will compete with treasuries, which will drive up interest rates. The Financial Times ran an article about it. The headline, Mark Carney takes on Trump's America. Right. Meanwhile, it looks like Trump, Musk, and perhaps some of the other 13 billionaires in his cabinet may be running a classic pump and dump scheme. Here's how it works. Trump and his buddies buy puts, bets that a stock will fall on a handful of volatile stocks. By the way, you can get a huge return on these things. You can get hundreds of % return, even if a stock only falls, 20, 30%, something like that. So number one, you buy the puts. You buy the bets that the stock will fall. Number two, you then go out and announce that you're putting tariffs on a bunch of things, cars, steel, whatever, after you bought stock in car companies and steel companies. The company's stocks collapse. You cash out of your puts, you exercise your puts and cash out with your profits as the stock is hitting bottom. And then you buy a bunch of calls, which are bets that the stock will go back up, heavily leveraged bets, and then you announce, we're going to suspend the tariffs for a month. And suddenly the stocks go back up. Rinse, repeat the following week. Now, the scam only works if you know in advance what actions the president is going to take to drive up or down stock prices. But if you or I did this, it would be a felony. But Trump was granted immunity by 6 corrupt Republicans on the Supreme Court. And does anybody really think that Kristi Noem or Kash Patel are going to investigate Donald Trump or his sons or his friends or Elon Musk? Now, are you skeptical that Trump might do something that brash, that criminal? Well, according to Peter Schiff, the chief economist and global strategist at Euro Pacific Capital, he just did with the meme coins, dollar Trump and dollar Melania. Schiff argues this was a classic pump and dump operation. He wants Congress to investigate it. Yeah, good luck with that. I can just see Mike Johnson and John Thune getting all over this stuff, right? But recessions are really huge buying opportunities for the morbidly rich. Millions are laid off work. Small businesses are going bankrupt. American families who might have a little bit of money in the stock market in their 401ks or their IRAs, their retirement plans, they suddenly have to sell stock just to pay the damn rent. And so they're selling their stock at fire sale prices. And what do the billionaires do? They buy that stock up. So number one, an economic disaster is a great excuse to reduce taxes on the rich with the excuse that the federal tax revenues have cratered and you need to stimulate the economy. Both Reagan and George W. Bush did this. And Trump, although he didn't do it in the face of a recession. But they said that cutting taxes on billionaires will stimulate the economy. And then Reagan, right after he threw the country into a recession with a tax cut, he then used that to cut food stamps, Medicaid, and AFDC. George W. Bush used the recession that followed his billionaire tax cut to try to cut Social Security. Second, in times of economic crisis, people's tolerance for strongman authoritarian government goes up. They're like, somebody save us, please. This is why it's a virtual certainty that Vladimir Putin and his buddies are celebrating Trump and Musk with champagne over at the Kremlin. I mean, Hitler used the Great Depression, the Republican Great Depression, to his advantage when he came to power in 1933. Trump could use a similar economic crisis to consolidate his power and ram through a state of emergency to take America down a road, to the America First form of neo-fascism. And third, billionaires make the most money when there's a crash. I've told you the story about my old friend Gloria Swanson telling me about how Joe Kennedy, was just completely out of the market just before the crash, and then after the crash went in and just bought everything in sight. And as a result of that, he became one of the richest men in America. J. Paul Getty, famous phrase, right after his famous phrase was, buy when everyone is selling and hold on until everyone else is buying. And that's something you can only do at scale if you're morbidly rich, right? Getty skipped his parents' golden anniversary in October of 1929 to go to Wall Street and buy stocks. He says it was the opportunity of a lifetime to get oil companies for practically nothing. And out of that, he became one of the 3 richest oil barons in the world. Flash forward to today, the Reagan crash made billionaires richer. The Bush crash made billionaires richer. The Trump crash made billionaires richer. I mean, massively richer. Rich people who bought stocks at the market bottom in 2009, just 11 years later, made a 462% return by 2020. $1 billion became $5.62 billion in just 11 years. And then they did it again 10 years later with the Trump crash. And, did I mention the billionaires love economic downturns? I mean, just that one single terrible crash year of 2020, the Institute for Policy Studies says the world's billionaires saw their wealth increase by 54%. America's billionaires saw their wealth increase by 62%. Average billionaire wealth worldwide increased 27% just in that 1 year. So get ready. A jury and the trial's judge found that Donald Trump raped E. Jean Carroll under common modern parlance. But that ain't nothing compared to what he and his billionaire buddies have planned for average Americans, people like you and me, that they see as the marks that they can fleece, force us to sell our stocks, crash the economy, buy it up cheap, get rich, 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 just like J. Paul Getty and Joe Kennedy did back in the day. It's an old, old game. And I'm just amazed that the media isn't talking about how these billionaires are playing this game.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
You can read all about it with details and links over at HartmannReport.com. It's titled Stock Market Manipulation. The morbidly rich call it happy hour. Completely free. Anybody can read it. Share it with your friends. And welcome back. Mateo in Espanola, New Mexico. Hey, Mateo. You were just talking to our call screener, who's also Mateo. What's up?
Yeah, hi, Tom.
Hey.
Thanks for taking my call. I've got about an hour's worth of topics I want to talk to you about, but mainly I want to talk about some good news, that Leonard Peltier got to be home.
Yeah.
And I know you've covered his story in the past, and we did a local radio show here with Richard Eads at 1260 a.m. That carries
KTOC,
you.
yeah.
And, yeah, it was a really good show. And so I just, in these difficult times, it sure is great to see, and it kind of got buried, Leonard's release, because Joe Biden did it right before, like minutes before Trump was inaugurated,
right.
Yeah. But I just didn't know if you had covered it or not. I don't get to listen to you every day.
We did. I talked about it when it happened. I praised Trump for that. Some right-winger called in and said, that guy killed a couple FBI agents. I was like, no, the bullets don't even match. I mean, come on. It's there's a pile of evidence that he was set up. So, yeah,
cool.
it's a fine thing. So we covered it. Mateo, thanks for the call, and nice to hear from you. I appreciate it. John in Harlem, New York. Hey, John, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Mr. Hartman. I'm glad you're back from the vacation and I wanted to talk to you about congressional protocol. We went back to Washington, D.C. back in 2000, and we were part of the coalition about public housing. Public housing people are the most forgotten people in this country, and we lobbied. The problem was we ran to protocol, congressional protocol, and that's what's hitting us now. You have to be within the district in order to, bring, issues about the district. And if you have an issue that's nationwide, that breaks us up. And what we did back then was we went from city to city all over the country in D.C. to the congressional members there. They didn't expect that from New Yorkers. We were almost thrown out of the Minnesota thing until a lot of us were dressed in African garb, and Keith being, I think he's the only Muslim that was on the group there. He said, "Oh no, come in, people. No, these are my people." So we had to, that's how we got to see him. But now we have a problem. We had a town hall in New York here with Natler, and I know Natler well, but because Natler's in another district from me being an Espaillat's district, we could not be part of the town hall. We cannot be united if we have congressional protocol in the way. These are dangerous new times.
This is not protocol, John. This is an excuse. it's what's going on.
Yeah, but they've been using it for years. So
there's no law or rule here that's being enforced. This is members of Congress get to make up their own rules.
Congressional rules, right?
In this context.
If Mr. Procan, when you speak to him, if he can address that with the congressional protocol and say, you know what, this is ridiculous. These are new times.
Well, 1 week from right now, he'll be on this program taking calls. So call in a week.
Okay, but it's a serious issue that we got to deal with if we're going to deal with crazy brains. You know what I mean?
I'm with you, John. Did you catch Pocan on Rachel's show last night? He knocked it out of the park. He did just a great job. John, thanks for the call, and thanks for watching Free Speech TV. We'll be right back, 21 minutes past the hour. Stay with us. Missed my opening rant today? It's usually published over at HartmannReport.com, where you can read it and share it with your friends for free. Check it out, HartmannReport.com. We've all gotten so used to living in a country where people are trying to crowdfund, like, cancer research for children. St. Jude's is a wonderful charity, but we're the only developed country in the world that needs, where you have to go to people and beg for money in order to treat children with cancer. Or Shriners, another great charity, but shouldn't we all be funding children who are born with birth defects and problems like that? We're probably the only country in the world where you can sell your life insurance policy because Social Security doesn't cover your retirement. It's probably not happening anywhere else in the world. Or reverse mortgage your home because you can't afford it. This is crazy that we are living in a country where No Kid Hungry, a charity. You can read all about it. There's a whole op-ed I wrote about this over at HartmannReport.com. It's titled America's Sickest Reality Show, Crowdfunding Cancer Care While Billionaires Hoard Billions. Check it out.
Sirens wail, the market's crashing, families cry while fortunes vanish. Jobs are gone, the banks foreclose, but the morbidly rich just strike a pose. They pour the scotch, they clink their glass, they buy up stocks while you collapse. A crisis means it's time to play another fire sale today. Stock market meltdown, it's happy hour. Pour the drinks, feel the power. Buy some more, laughing as they lock the door.
Yes, indeed, 23 minutes past the hour. Elon Musk has just decided to give another $100 million to Donald Trump. interestingly, a lot of this money is going into Trump super PACs that Trump can then extract the money from if he leaves office. I say if he leaves office because we all know that he has been talking a lot lately about never leaving office, so we'll see what happens. But this is pretty unprecedented. The headline in the New York Times yesterday, Musk seeks to put $100 million directly into Trump political operation. Now, you're seeing the evidence of this. Yesterday, last night was the vote on this continuing resolution to keep the government open. Now, if this was a clean CR is, short for continuing resolution. If this was a clean CR, in other words, if all it said was, we're just going to keep the government operating exactly as it is until September, until the end of the fiscal year, the Democrats would not have a problem with it. But what they did is they said, we're going to keep the government operating just like it is, but we're going to add additional authority to Elon Musk and Donald Trump to slash our federal agencies. And for that reason, the only Democrat in the entire House of Representatives who voted for this was Jared Golden. Jared Golden is, famously one of the big-time on-the-take Democrats. Cross my palm with cash, lobbyists, please. Him and Josh Gottheimer and these so-called problem solvers and the AIPAC Democrats and whatnot. So that was it. And there was only one Republican who voted against it. And that's probably the bigger story because Elon Musk and Donald Trump now have this, $100 million, well, actually it's multi-hundred. There's some reports saying that Trump is sitting on as much as $600 million right now that he can use to primary anybody. I mean, Thomas Massey, I told you yesterday, the day before yesterday, Thomas Massey, the Kentucky Republican who likes to send out pictures on Christmas of him and his 3 or 4 kids, each one of them holding an AR-15. He said he was going to vote against it because he doesn't like continuing resolutions. Trump called him up and said, okay, we're going to primary you. In fact, he didn't call him up. He said it publicly. We'll primary Thomas Massey if he votes the wrong way on this. Massey changed his vote. These guys are terrified of this big money. And they should be. The corrupt Republicans on the U.S. Supreme Court, Clarence Thomas being the deciding vote after, a billionaire had been spiffing him and his family and his mother and his son, or his adopted kid, or whatever they call him, was the deciding vote on Citizens United. So here we've got this $100 million, and then, what does Trump do? He pulls 5 Teslas up to the front of the White House in violation of the Hatch Act and says, hey, everybody, go out and buy a car. Yeah, right. I mean, this is beyond wrong. This is beyond corrupt. This is the kind of stuff you expect to see in pot dictatorships. This is not the kind of behavior that should ever be happening in the United States of America. And again, 75% of the blame here goes right to 5 Republicans on the U.S. Supreme Court. Now, a couple of them are gone, but Clarence Thomas and Sam Alito are still around. And, the damage that they have done to this country with that Citizens United decision is beyond breathtaking. Meanwhile, Mahmoud Khalil has been moved to an insanely brutal detention facility. I'll tell you about that after the break, and I'll pick up your calls. Stay with us. It's 27 minutes past the hour.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
It's Viagra for your brain, but it does not lead to stiff thinking. Stick around. We'll be right back. Hey, it's day 3 here of the 2 weeks of our Spring Fun Drive here on Free Speech TV. And as always, Free Speech TV just has you. We really need your support, or Free Speech TV really needs your support. The funds go, straight to Free Speech TV, which is just, it's just amazing that we've got an entire television network here that's running on this little tiny budget. Some really dedicated people, underpaid, overworked, and they're just doing great. The revolutionary figure highlight for the day, a new feature that the folks at Free Speech TV are sharing with us, is Chris Smalls. Chris Smalls wasn't some high-powered executive. He wasn't a politician. He was just a guy who was working at an Amazon warehouse. And when COVID hit and Amazon refused to protect its workers, Chris spoke up and in return, Amazon fired him. Instead of disappearing, though, he got organized. He and his fellow workers built the first ever union at an Amazon facility. Amazon threw everything they had at him, spent millions of dollars on union busting, intimidation attacks, tactics, political attacks, but Chris and his team won anyway. So if you believe in workers' rights, if you believe in holding the powerful, people like Jeff Bezos accountable, if you believe in independent media that doesn't answer to billionaires like Free Speech TV, then we need you to step up right now. There's a lot of ways you can contribute to Free Speech TV, or at least two big ways that you can contribute to Free Speech TV. One is to make a monthly gift. The other is to do a one-time gift. You can do both at the same time if you call 877-378-8669. The one-time gifts, there are premiums, gifts that you get for giving a gift. With a $20 gift, you have your choice of the Elect a Clown, Expect a Circus bumper sticker or the This Is Not Normal bumper sticker. With a $120 gift, you have your choice of the Talking About Abolition book by Sonali or my book, The Hidden History of the American Dream, autographed by the author. With a $1,000 gift, there's all 10 of my books in the Hidden History series, all 10 books, each autographed by the author. A great gift, by the way. Or you can come here to Portland and hang out with us and do a meet and greet. So while you are considering how much of a gift you're going to give and whether you're going to do a one-time gift or whether you're going to, sign up to make $15 a month or $30 a month or $70 a month or whatever works with your particular finances, while you're considering that, I mentioned on the program yesterday Mario Savio. Mario Savio was arguably the leader of the free speech movement at Berkeley back in 64 and 65. And this is a movement that really inspired student activism literally all around the world and led directly to the major anti-Vietnam War protests and teach-ins and sit-ins and all kinds of other things that many of us participated with back in the 66, 67, 68, through the early 70s when finally the Vietnam War was ended. So here is Mario Savio at Berkeley, at California's Berkeley campus, explaining the importance of civil disobedience. Here it is.
So here we are. 4 students are getting the axe. 6 organizations are getting the axe for standing up this semester and for fighting for these things. They're getting the axe not for what they did, but for what we have done. They spoke for us. They were part of us. They have been singled out, and they're going to be chopped off.
We were told the following: if President Kerr actually tried to get something more liberal out of the regents in his telephone conversations, why didn't he make some public statement to that effect? And the answer we received from a well-meaning liberal was the following. He said, would you ever imagine the manager of a firm making a statement publicly in opposition to his board of directors? That's the answer. Well, I ask you to consider, if this is a firm, and if the Board of Regents are the Board of Directors, and if President Kerr, in fact, is the manager, then I tell you something, the faculty are a bunch of employees, and we're the raw materials. But we're a bunch of raw materials that don't mean to have any process upon us, don't mean to be made into any product, don't mean to end up being bought by some clients of the university, be they the government, be they industry, be they organized labor, be they anyone, or human beings. There's a time when the operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part. And you've got to put your bodies upon the gears and upon the wheels, upon the levers, upon all the apparatus, and you've got to make it stop. And you've got to indicate to the people who run it, to the people who own it, that unless you're free, the machine will be prevented from working at all.
There you go. Mario Savio. He passed away from a heart attack in 1996, by the way. But the student movements, this is specifically on the program yesterday, I was referencing the arrest of Mahmoud Khalil by the Trump administration, apparently signed off on by our Secretary of State, the former senator from Florida. This is anyhow, this is the Free Speech TV fundraiser, not my program. So please Call now, 877-378-8669, or go to freespeech.org/donate and make your contribution now. It's important. Thank you. Did you know that every weekday we send out an email before the show giving you all the topics coming up so you can be fully informed and ready to interact with our program? Or that after the show we send out Sue's Stack, a list of every topic I've discussed along with clickable hot links to every source of information I've shared with you on the air? It's all completely free and available over at thom.tv, THOM.tv. Check it out.
In the shadows of the Kremlin's might, a deal was struck beneath the night. Whispers echo of a secret tie between the power and the spy. Does Putin own Trump? The question stands, a puppet dancing on Russian strands in the corridors where secrets seep. The truth lies buried dark and deep. From Helsinki stage to whispered calls, a leader bends, another enthralls. Sanctions lifted, alliances frayed, a nation's trust begins to fade. Does Putin own Trump?
35 minutes past the hour. A protester, Mahmoud Khalil, he was actually the negotiator between the protests at Columbia University, the people who were protesting this massive, murderous 2,000-pound dumb bomb campaign that Netanyahu was running against Gazan civilians, killing tens of thousands of them. They were protesting that, and which Donald Trump calls anti-Semitism. And he was trying to negotiate a peaceful transition, get out, stop occupying the buildings and things like that between them and the university. Because he was the negotiator, his name was in the media. Because his name was in the media, Donald Trump went bat guano crazy and, ordered him kicked out of the country. This is a guy who had a green card. You can't kick people with green cards out unless, number one, they've committed a crime, and then they go through an actual hearing, an actual process, a legal process with the State Department to determine whether their green card should be revoked. Or number two, the Secretary of State himself, in this case Marco Rubio, determines that they are a threat to American foreign policy. He doesn't have to give any evidence. This is completely arbitrary. He can simply say it. And it appears, or it's being reported, it was reported in the New York Times, that Marco Rubio indeed did that. He signed the document saying, in my opinion, this guy's a threat to U.S. foreign policy. And, this is under a law that goes back to the 1970s. Odds are that they're actually going to succeed in deporting this guy. But what they've done, but we'll see. I mean, there's several lawsuits around this, but the horrible thing is that, he was arrested at Columbia University. He had on or near campus housing, and they shipped him 1,300 miles away to the LaSalle Correctional Facility. This is a for-profit ICE facility in Louisiana. It was operated first as a juvenile detention center, and then it got shut down for tear gassing and pepper spraying children. They reopened it as an adult detention facility under ICE, an ICE facility, and now I'm just quoting from this Daily Kos story. Since becoming an ICE facility, LaSalle has been rampant with sexual assault, with a 2024 audit finding that the facility violated multiple federal standards under the Prison Rape Elimination Act. In 2016, 3 immigrants died at LaSalle in the span of 6 months. The following year, another immigrant died, prompting another investigation. And now, this young man has been put there, much to the anguish of him and his 8-month pregnant American wife. The National Executive Director of the Arab American Discrimination Committee said of these kinds of things, when ICE does these kind of things, quote, they are usually taken to remote areas where it's hard to get an attorney. And meanwhile, Trump has been, celebrating this on his Nazi-infested social media site. He said, "This is the first arrest of many to come." "We know there are more students at Columbia and other universities across the country who have engaged in pro-terrorist, anti-Semitic, anti-American activity, and the Trump administration will not tolerate it." Let's be very clear. I am not a Hamas supporter. In fact, I'm disgusted by Hamas. I'm all in favor of destroying the organization. But if I was a Hamas supporter and I wanted to say, "Hey, I like Hamas," or something like that, I have a right to do that under the First Amendment. We have this thing called free speech. And we also have the right to peaceably assemble and petition our government for redress of grievance. Nobody is alleging that this guy actually committed any crime at all, including the government. Even Donald Trump is, he's saying, it's anti-Semitism and it's un-American and it's pro-terrorist. Well, you can call names, but those aren't crimes. Or at least, what he did is not a crime. Arguably some of, there are probably some pro-terrorist and anti-Semitic activities that would inappropriately be crimes. But this is not what we're talking about here. Jamal Abdi, who's been on this who's been on this show many times. He's the president of the National Iranian American Council. He said, "We may soon live in a country where you can assault a police officer and storm the Capitol to overturn a democratic election and walk off scot-free. But if you attend a peaceful anti-war rally, you could be deported." Incredible. So what's on your mind today? Let's pick up some calls here. Robert in Statesville, North Carolina. Hey, Robert, what's up?
Thank you, Tom. First off, I'd like to say I think a lot of people just understand what you're talking about, and that's a really good thing, because even the subject I'm on, after listening online for like a half an hour, I kind of got lost because I listened to all the stuff that you talked about, and it all rings true. But here's what I was going to talk about, and it's kind of off the wall, but remember Charlottesville, and wasn't it behind a statue, a Confederate statue, and they had the protests, and all the white supremacists were going down the street going, "The Jews will not replace us."
Right.
And now, what do they say? Do they say the Palestinians will not replace the Jews? Right? It's stupid. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, now they're, I don't know what they're chanting now. This great replacement theory is still being promoted by Republican members of Congress, for God's sake. Rich Jews are paid to replace white Americans with brown people, God forbid.
Yeah, some of my best friends are fucking.
You can't use that language, Robert. I got to drop you right now. I'm sorry. John in Evanston, Illinois, and apologies for anybody who was offended. John, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom. Love your show.
Thank you. What's up?
I do not like Trump. However, he may be ending the wars, and I use wars plural. He basically ended the war in Afghanistan.
That was Joe Biden who ended that war.
Well,
what Donald Trump did is he shut down, as I recall, 9 of our 10 Air Force bases there, or maybe it was 8 out of 9, all but one of them. And that made it really difficult when Biden became in as president to pull out our soldiers in a safe way.
Right. And Trump actually thought he was going to win the election, and he would have gotten the war ended.
Well,
but now we turn to Ukraine. Ukraine, there's a guy named Kellogg who has a very good explanation, Lieutenant General retired, I think it's George Kellogg, and he says basically Trump is totally transactional. He sets these things up. When he says we've got we're going to get the minerals, and there's going to be peace. And you go back over what he said to Zelensky. You don't have the cards. With me, you've got something. He's got the deal in his mind, and it's going to happen. And it's going to be the end of the war.
Well, we'll see. But
Now,
what you're missing, John, and I get all this, and you're speaking as if being transactional is a positive thing. We have principles in America. We defend democratic nations. We are opposed, both legally and morally, to any country invading another country, killing their people, raping their women as a policy of war, stealing over 100,000 of their children and selling them into sex trafficking in Russia. We are opposed to that. Trump is fine with all that. So, you can call him transactional. You can say, oh, wonderful, he might end the war and all that kind of stuff all day long. But it's BS. The reality is he's not defending democracy. He's defending Putin. He's defending autocracy. Okay. He's telling Zelensky, you're going to have to give Putin what he's already taken. And what does that say to China that wants to take Taiwan? What does that say to any country in the world that wants to invade a weaker neighbor? It's a terrible message that Trump is sending.
I'm older than you. I was born in 1941.
What does that have to do with anything?
Well, this is what, in March of 1968, LBJ went on television. We jumped for joy. He was going to end the war in Vietnam. He didn't do it.
I know he didn't do it because Richard Nixon called up the president of South Vietnam and said, I'll make you rich if you'll refuse to go to Paris.
No, he didn't do it because he wouldn't fly to Hanoi, negotiate the end of the war.
Oh, that's silly, John. That's silly.
United States of America.
LBJ should have hopped on a plane and flown into the middle of a war zone. The only president who's ever flown into a war zone in the history of our country, outside of James Madison, actually, was involved in a war zone. But the only other president who's ever done that was Joe Biden, who went into Ukraine during this war. No, John, forget it. That was a treason by Nixon.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
45, and I remember it well, by the way, 45 minutes past the hour. We'll be back with more of your calls in just a moment. Stay with us. And welcome back. Brady in Dalton, Georgia. Hey, Brady, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom, welcome back. I want to talk about the upcoming elections. I don't think there's going to be another election, Tom. You cannot go into a situation like this where you alienate even 30% of the country above what's already alienated from you. I mean, when you're shutting down welfare for people that need it, and then Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security, Department of Education, science education, I mean, the CDC, all this stuff that help people. I mean, you're shutting it down, you're hurting people, you're alienating people, you're throwing people into poverty, people losing homes, jobs, everything behind that. And then, as a representative, you can't even go home and people know you're there because you're subject to get assaulted or whatever. People hating you because you're representing Trump. You can't hold a town hall. How you going to get reelected? It's impossible. They're going to use the algorithm, and they know it. They're going to cheat. Because you cannot be reelected under these circumstances. I don't care how much, even that dude that was just talking to you, he ain't going to vote for his representative. He'll vote for Trump, but he ain't going to vote for his representative. I mean, it's crazy, man. They're going to cheat, Tom, and they're going to use the algorithm provided by Elon Musk's crew.
I get what you're saying, Brady, but let me give you my perspective on it. I think that we have passed a critical threshold. I should probably write an op-ed about this that has to do with oligarchy. That we are now in because of Citizens United in large part, and the two decisions that preceded it, Buckley and Bellotti, because of these Supreme Court decisions, we now have a political system that has been captured by the morbidly rich. And They are so confident. They know. I mean, you know, we saw this. We saw this with AIPAC knocking out 3 progressive Democrats in the primaries in the last election. We saw this with Elon Musk dropping almost $300 million into the election and doing whatever he was doing with computers in Pennsylvania to get Donald Trump into the White House. We have reached the point where the really rich people in this country and a handful of very, very large corporations are convinced, and I think correctly, that all they have to do is saturate, just carpet bomb, saturate a congressional district, or if it's a Senate seat, a state, with advertising, in social media, on television, in print. I mean, when AIPAC was funding this phony front group that nobody could figure out who it was, it turned out it was AIPAC, here in Oregon, to take down Sheila Jayapal. I was getting these, 8x10 color glossy printed things in the mail like every 3-4 days, just trashing, our candidates. They believe that they can buy these elections, Brady, and I think that they're right. I have no doubt that there will be elections. My concern is that they're going to be elections like they have in Russia and in Hungary, where the outcome is a foregone conclusion. And either the elections themselves are being manipulated, and we see that right now with all this voter suppression, or in this case, public opinion is being manipulated heavily by big money in the media. Brady, I got to run, but thanks for bringing up a really important and provocative point. I do agree with you. The damage that they're doing is going to hurt them. We'll be right back. It's 10 minutes before the hour. Hey, thanks so much for sharing our program and for reaching out to our stations and sponsors and letting them know that you're listening. It really means a lot to us.
They say he's from the hills, but the truth ain't so clear. Grew up in the suburbs, not the Appalachia frontier. J.D. Vance, you're just a tale they sell, while real folks struggle in a system built to fail. It's a J.D. Vance, LG Griff, sell lives with a smile, cause you never want to drift. From the suburbs to the Senate, you climb so high, on the backs of the poor while you spread your life.
9 minutes before the hour. Welcome back. Picking up your calls here. Bob in Raleigh, North Carolina. Hey, Bob, what's up?
Hey, Tom, welcome back.
Thank you.
And, I just was listening to your previous call, and I just got done being at our local Democratic precinct meeting. Mm-hmm. And you're right. It's going to be, how do we counter the effects of money? And I think what it is that, at least in Wake County, we overperformed in terms of knocking on doors, and I was part of that. He has doing my part, like you said, doing it from the bottom up. And I would encourage everybody. Well, 2 things. One thing before I forget. One way to help get the message out, support free speech TV.
Yeah.
For everybody listening.
Well, or if you're listening to a nonprofit station, support them. And if you're listening to us on a for-profit station, call their advertisers and tell them, hey, I'm listening to WCPT, or I'm listening to KTRC, or whatever, or KTNF. I'm listening to the station right now, and thank you for advertising with them. I'm going to support your products. Yeah, it's a great step.
Hey, so the question I have for you is, I have an opportunity to help write the plank for the North Carolina, or make contributions for resolutions for the plank. Mm-hmm. What would be a good resource? What's a good place to, like, a compendium? And I mean, I want to hit as much as I can, and I was going to also use the template from the Poor People's Campaign as well, Bishop Barber and Reverend Theo Harris. But what would you say?
Boy, that's a good question. I would start with Bernie's office. I would reach out to them and ask them for a copy of the plank that Bernie ran on for president in 2016 and 2020. That's solid stuff. It's probably available online. You probably don't even need to call. You could probably Google it. But Bernie boiled it down very, very well. The Democratic Party platform actually in 2016 and 2020 wasn't terrible, but Bernie's the platform that Bernie was running on in those primaries is really worth looking at.
Okay. Okay, that's great. Well, thank you. I'll definitely do that. And yeah, we know we're in for a fight. We know we're in for a GERD, but we can't quit because it's your kids, your grandkids, the 7 generations. In the words of the Iroquois Confederacy, we have to think about the 7 generations, and we got to do it.
So the future is at
thank
stake.
you for doing what you do.
You're welcome, Bob. Thank you for the call, and thanks for what you're doing. That's great that you're showing up at your local Democratic Party. Michael in Gainesville, Florida. Hey, Michael, what's on your mind today?
Yes. Hi, Tom. I know you've lived through hostile surveillance states, and there's so much going on in the world, it's hard to know where to focus one's attention. I think this issue with Mahmoud Khalil has gone over a lot of people's heads. It's a wake-up call to every parent, brother, sister, aunt, uncle, or grandparent of a college student. Get a hold of them and let them know that they're monitoring them, so you can't just go out and protest. You can't. And you're not just risking being expelled if you have a green card. You can be expelled from the university, and not just your university, but any university that receives government funds, and probably the private ones too. So this is a big deal, and I've got a solution here that I think you'll find interesting. What they can do is strike to protest against transsexual mice killings. Those last 2 letters, mice killings, obviously is for Mahmoud Khalil, and the kids during the week can just put cute whiskers on Monday through Friday and go into class. And if anyone asks,
it wasn't transsexual mice that the research was being done on. It was transgenic mice that have human genes in them, so that we can study human diseases in mice.
Which is why it's funny. The proof
it's funny if you know, but it's not funny if you're promoting Trump's memes.
What's the proof that the transsexual mice killings are occurring is the fact you can't find any. They've obviously been killed because there's no such thing as a transsexual mouse.
Yeah, okay, but I get it. Michael, I think this is a weird...
on campus. You don't want the kids to get in trouble.
Yeah, I think we've gone down a rabbit hole here that's a little too deep for me. Rich in Lake Ariel, Pennsylvania. Hey, Rich, what's up?
Hi. I was just wanted to add one thing to what you were saying earlier in terms of the rich people using puts and to tank the market to then make a bundle. It's also stopping people from investing in the market or in any assets. Because, I just got a call just before I called you where they were asking for investment. And I said, I can't invest for the next 4 years.
Because
I'm afraid.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
I'm afraid of this administration.
Yeah.
I don't know what the heck they're going to do. I'm wondering if I should be calling my broker and saying, sell off everything before it tanks completely.
Yeah.
And I think that's most people. We're afraid.
Yeah, the market's already down about 5%. I mean, we're seeing a bloodbath. I think it's going to get a whole lot worse, but don't ever take financial advice from me. I have never successfully made money in the stock market. I've lost money in the stock market every time I've tried, and I finally just turned everything over. And it's not like I'm rich or something, but I have a little bit of money, and I turned it all over to a professional guy who says he's doing a good job. I told him a couple months ago, I said, I think Trump is going to be a disaster. We should probably move into cash. And he's like, oh, you don't want to move into cash. So we'll see. We'll see. But anyhow, yeah, Rich, like I said, don't take my advice. I appreciate the call, but I share your concern. I think you're right. It is, we're hitting the top of the hour here. It's 57 minutes past the hour. I'll be back with more of the news of the day. Jaime Raskin has asked for our help. What is it that he wants us to do? This is an amazing story. I'll tell you about that right after the break. Stay with us.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
In addition to bringing you the Thom Hartmann program here on Free Speech TV and Video Media Online, we also have a whole set of ways you can interact with us and tools you can use to spread the word about the importance of democracy and the threats to it in our republic. First, there's your daily homework. Sue Nethercutt puts together a daily email newsletter that has a link to every story I discuss on the air, so you can find my sources and you can share them with your friends. It's free and you can sign up at thomhartmann.com. Second, I publish my daily take every day over at the HartmannReport.com website. That's also free if you want the daily 5 days a week rant in your inbox. No ads either. Third, we have the podcasts. There's the free 1-hour version of our daily show that's advertising supported. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts normally. And then there's also the podcast of the entire 3-hour show with no advertisements, and that's available by subscription over at thomhartmann.com. So check them all out at thomhartmann.com and hartmannreport.com.
We say fight back!
Hey, it's day 3 here of the 2 weeks of our Spring Fun Drive here on Free Speech TV. And as always, Free Speech TV just has you. We really need your support, or Free Speech TV really needs your support. The funds go, straight to Free Speech TV, which is just, it's just amazing that we've got an entire television network here that's running on this little tiny budget. Some really dedicated people. Underpaid, overworked, and they're just doing great. The revolutionary figure highlight for the day, a new feature that the folks at Free Speech TV are sharing with us, is Chris Smalls. Chris Smalls wasn't some high-powered executive. He wasn't a politician. He was just a guy who was working at an Amazon warehouse. And when COVID hit and Amazon refused to protect its workers, Chris spoke up, and in return, Amazon fired him. Instead of disappearing, though, he got organized. He and his fellow workers built the first ever union at an Amazon facility. Amazon threw everything they had at him, spent millions of dollars on union busting, intimidation tactics, political attacks. But Chris and his team won anyway. So if you believe in workers' rights, if you believe in holding the powerful, people like Jeff Bezos accountable, if you believe in independent media that doesn't answer to billionaires like Free Speech TV, then we need you to step up right now. There's a lot of ways you can contribute to Free Speech TV, or at least 2 big ways that you can contribute to Free Speech TV. One is to make a monthly gift. The other is to do a one-time gift. You can do both at the same time if you call 877-378-8669. The one-time gifts, there are premiums, gifts that you get for giving a gift. With a $20 gift, you have your choice of the Elect a Clown, Expect a Circus bumper sticker, or the This Is Not Normal bumper sticker. With a $120 gift, you have your choice of the Talking About Abolition book by Sonali, or my book, The Hidden History of the American Dream, autographed by the author. With a $1,000 gift, there's all 10 of my books in the Hidden History series, all 10 books, each autographed by the author. A great gift, by the way. Or you can come here to Portland and hang out with us and do a meet and greet. So while you are considering how much of a gift you're going to give, and whether you're going to do a one-time gift, or whether you're going to, sign up to make $15 a month, or $30 a month, or $70 a month, or whatever works with your particular finances, while you're considering that, I mentioned on the program yesterday Mario Savio. Mario Savio was arguably the leader of the free speech movement at Berkeley back in '64 and '65. And this is a movement that really inspired student activism literally all around the world, and led directly to the major anti-Vietnam War protests and teach-ins and sit-ins and all kinds of other things that many of us participated with back in the 66, 67, 60, really 67, 68, through the early 70s, when finally the Vietnam War was ended. So here is Mario Savio at Berkeley, at California's Berkeley campus, explaining the importance of civil disobedience. Here it is.
So here we are, 4 students are getting the axe, 6 organizations are getting the axe for standing up this semester and for fighting for these things. They're getting the axe not for what they did, but for what we have done. They spoke for us, they were part of us, they have been singled out, and they're going to be chopped off.
We were told the following: if President Kerr actually tried to get something more liberal out of the regents in his telephone conversations, why didn't he make some public statement to that effect? And the answer we received from a well-meaning liberal was the following. He said, would you ever imagine the manager of a firm making a statement publicly in opposition to his board of directors? That's the answer. Well, I ask you to consider, if this is a firm, and if the Board of Regents are the Board of Directors, and if President Kerr, in fact, is the manager, then I tell you something, the faculty are a bunch of employees, and we're the raw materials. But we're a bunch of raw materials that don't mean to have any process upon us, don't mean to be made into any product, don't mean to end up being bought by some clients of the university, be they the government, be they industry, be they organized labor, be they anyone, or human beings. There's a time when the operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part. And you've got to put your bodies upon the gears and upon the wheels, upon the levers, upon all the apparatus, and you've got to make it stop. And you've got to indicate to the people who run it, to the people who own it, that unless you're free, the machine will be prevented from working at all.
There you go. Mario Savio. He passed away from a heart attack in 1996, by the way. But the student movements, this is specifically on the program yesterday, I was referencing the arrest of Mahmoud Khalil by the Trump administration, apparently signed off on by our Secretary of State, the former senator from Florida. This is anyhow, this is the Free Speech TV fundraiser, not my program. So please call now, 877-378-8669, or go to freespeech.org/donate and make your contribution now. It's important. Thank you.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Hey, welcome to the second hour of our program. Jaime Raskin put out a press release yesterday in which he said, I'll just quote from it, "Today I filed a formal demand for access to my personal data obtained by the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, and Elon Musk." I'm increasingly, by the way, calling this the Department of Government Extinction, but nonetheless. He says, "I encourage all U.S. citizens to join me in doing the same." And there's a hot link to the form on the federal government website where you can submit a Freedom of Information Act request for your own information. What do you guys know? What information about me has DOGE taken from Social Security? Have they taken from the IRS? Have they taken from Medicare? Have they taken from some other agent, from the FBI, whatever it may be? What information about me do you guys have? Now, the Privacy Act of the Federal Privacy Act of 1974 and the Freedom of Information Act allow us to do this. And what's interesting is DOGE recently was sued by a bunch of citizens saying you're snooping through my personal stuff. And the way that they got out of the lawsuit was by saying, we're an official government agency, so we can snoop through your stuff because it's the government that is holding your stuff, and we're the government. Now, once they said that in court, and won their case, by the way, once they said that, they became subject to the Privacy Act and the Freedom of Information Act. So now, Jaime Raskin is asking people to file, under the Privacy Act of 74, to file a Freedom of Information Act request. There's a website over on, or an article about this over at Daily Kos, DAILYKOS.com, titled "Jaime Raskin Asks Us to Help Make a FOIA tsunami, FOIA, Freedom of Information Act, FOIA. And the reason is, first of all, well, let's find out what they do have on us. But then secondly, this is going to be an administrative nightmare for this, group of 20-some-odd 20-somethings. So what could this do? Well, if large numbers of U.S. citizens follow Raskin's lead, DOGE is going to be inundated with demands for that data. If they've been sharing information with other agencies or with foreign entities or with corporations like X, for example, that's a crime that we could find out about. Or if they have been sharing X's information with the federal government, that may be a crime. If DOGE refuses to comply with this court order, they could be held in contempt and they could be subject to additional lawsuits. And if they do comply, the information might trigger further investigations. We'll see, right? Because we just don't know what we're going to find. We don't know what Jaime Raskin is going to find. Specifically, what Raskin says is that Elon Musk and DOGE may have been working together with regard to citizen data collection. Well, what is the new currency right now? It's not gold, it's data. The richest companies in the world are the richest companies in the world, like Google and Apple, not because of what they, what they're selling, but because of data, because of the data that they're accumulating. Amazon, even, accumulating massive amounts of data about every single one of us. So is X, is Tesla? Tesla accumulates massive. If you own a Tesla car, that car is constantly telling Elon Musk where you are, what you're doing. The cameras on the outside of that car are active pretty much all the time. Tesla's central, at least as I've read this, I'll fact check this on me, but what I've read is that Tesla can actually turn on your car and see what's going on. I mean, and I'm guessing Tesla's not unique in this regard, by the way. But is that information being shared? How is that information being used? Now, you can't FOIA Tesla, but you can the federal government and find out if there's something going on here. This could become something that exacerbates the partisan divide between the Democrats and the Republicans. Could put the Republicans basically on the defense. It also, if DOGE has been operating in secret, this could provoke whistleblowers to come forward, which would be very interesting. And that could provoke congressional hearings or maybe even special investigations. And all of this could lead to stronger data privacy laws. So this is a high-stake battle here that Jaime Raskin has begun. And I encourage you to check out that article on Daily Kos. It's probably the most accessible piece, and it has the hot link in it, where it's a form, a government form that you print out, and you fill it out physically, and you mail it into the government. And then, you start getting your information sometimes months or years later, but eventually the information comes. I think it would be fascinating. So, is he actually finding waste, fraud, and abuse? I don't think so. Now, some good news, and that is, actually, before I get to the good news, let me tell you about what's going on at USAID, the U.S. Agency for International Development. This is the agency that keeps other countries tied to us. You'll recall just a couple days ago, I think it was Monday, I shared with you the story that I believe it was in the Financial Times, might have been the Wall Street Journal, but I'm pretty sure it's the Financial Times, that the Caribbean, the islands in the Caribbean, are on the verge of becoming Russia, Russian vassal states, or, Russian allies. Why? Because we're cutting off our funding to them that was assisting them with medicine and food production and things like that. We're cutting all that off, and Russia's coming in and saying, and China, both of them, are coming in and saying, no, to go with us. Large chunks of Russia, or of Africa, are aligning themselves now rapidly with China because USAID pulled out. I think this is the reason why Vladimir Putin ordered Donald Trump and Elon Musk to destroy the U.S. Agency for International Development. I think Musk also had a general hatred for it because USAID played a real significant role back in the day in bringing down the apartheid government in South Africa. Elon Musk was, according to his father, driven to his all-white school every day from his all-white neighborhood in a Rolls Royce by a chauffeur as a child. And, a lot of that kind of fell apart with the end of apartheid, and that's when Musk left the country and went to Canada and then came to the United States on a student visa, but didn't bother being a student, became an illegal immigrant, at least according to some press reports for a while. So USAID, the staff there was ordered to clear out the Ronald Reagan building, which is where they used to be, and shred or burn documents. Now, governments are not supposed to shred and burn documents. And when they do, it's typically a sign that something's up that you should know about and they don't want you to know about. I mean, this is from an article by CBS News, right, by Sarah Cook and Camelia Schick. And they write, quote, "The documents being ordered destroyed could be evidence for multiple court filings against the Trump administration and the government aid agency," one source familiar with the instructions about the handling of USAID records told CBS News. Now, the shredding and burning was supposed to begin yesterday, Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. Also on Tuesday, Democracy Forward and Public Citizen, two progressive nonprofits, sued. They filed a motion for an emergency temporary restraining order and against the State Department for unlawful destruction of documents at USAID. Now, we don't know at this moment whether the DOGE people or the USAID people complied with the order to burn documents, or whether they complied with or whether the court even granted a temporary restraining order or an emergency motion to stop this. I may be using the wrong legal language here. I'm not an attorney, but let's get to the bottom of this. Meanwhile, Bernie Sanders is he's at it again. He's just doing the great stuff that Bernie has been doing his whole entire life. I'll tell you about that after the break. And then I'll be picking up your phone calls as well. So stay with us. We'll be right back. It's 15 minutes past the hour.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
It's the place where despair is not an option. I'll be right back with more of your calls and the news of the day. Stay with us. And welcome back. Kusai in Campo, California. Hey, Kusai, what's on your mind today?
How you doing, Tom?
I'm great, but I'll get better. How about you?
I am best, thank you. I just want to point out that it's illegal to boycott Israel in 27 states. It's the law of 27 states to boycott Israel, and I don't understand why we cannot vote with our wallets.
That's a good question. I am aware of those anti-BDS laws. Boycott, what does BDS stand for? Divest and sanction.
Boycott, divest.
Thank you. I'm aware of those laws, but I'm not aware of how they work, Kusai. We should probably get a guest on to talk about it, because it certainly sounds unconstitutional to me.
It is unconstitutional, and I'm surprised that the ACLU hasn't got involved in it yet, because it's a matter of I'm free to vote any way I want, and I vote with my wallet.
Yeah. If you vote, this country started with a boycott. It's the East India Company, the Boston Tea Party in November 1773.
Absolutely. And then there is one other point I want to make. And I notice every time there is a congressman or a senator on Democrat on TV during interviews, they always point out that how in private conversation their fellow or Republican congressmen or senators say different things to them than what they say in public. I don't see why they're trying to salvage the reputation of all these Republican and in the Senate and Congress. That to me, it's kind of why are you trying to redeem these people?
Yeah. Well, for a long, long time, this was very much the case in the Senate. I don't think it's ever really been the case in the House of Representatives, but for a long, long time, a lot of senators put their collegiality, their relationship with other senators, their role as basically the second level of power in America behind the White House.
Yeah.
They put that above their individual disagreements or even their party affiliations. And they used to have, you know, the Senate dining room this all ended basically in the 90s with when Newt Gingrich came in 96 into the House of Representatives.
After Rep. O'Neill, this ended. This whole thing.
And the Senate kind of went along in the early 2000s, and they started dividing the Senate dining room based on party, and senators don't dine together anymore, and all this kind of stuff. So, I mean, I'm not sure if it's fortunate or unfortunate, frankly. I mean,
it's a good thing if we're all congenial and kind of polite to each other. But in this class war that is going on, why are we trying to always redeem them like they're good people?
Well, that's the problem. I think this is an issue very much like the issue that senators and members of Congress were facing in the late 1840s and throughout the 1850s, where you had people from the South who were just openly anti-American and ultimately declared war on America. And how do you maintain a relationship with people who are openly anti-American? And this is, you know, it's got to be a challenge. I would not want to be in the Senate right now. But I can tell you the one thing that I am sure of is that the Republicans, they always want to get in the Senate, they always want to get at least one Democrat who will go along with them. And they massage that person, they give money, they praise them, they love bomb them. They did this to Kyrsten Sinema and they got her to flip. Joe Manchin had always been kind of corrupt. And now they're doing it with John Fetterman. So, you know, keep an eye out. This is going to get very, very strange here in the next couple of days, this continuing resolution thing, because Friday's the deadline. Kusai, thanks for the call. It's 20 minutes past the hour. Change starts with you. You can be calling your Democratic or Republican representatives to let them know what you think by calling 202-224-3121. It's the Capitol switchboard. It'll get you right through to them.
Once we stood with Skywalker, rebels in the fight, champions of freedom in the beacon's light. But the masks have fallen and the truth is clear. We've let the darkness whisper in our ear. From the Senate halls to the city streets, the empire rises while democracy sleeps. He trades our flag for a tyrant's throne. Now the free world stands alone. This is America's Darth Vader moment. Falling to the dark side, can we atone it? Bowing to strong men, selling our soul, turning from heroes to villains untold.
21 minutes past the hours. Bernie Sanders got into a little bit of a tussle yesterday with Mike Crapo, the chair of the U.S. Senate Finance Committee. Bernie is the senior Democrat on that committee. And Bernie was pushing for legislation to expand, which had been introduced into the House, by the way, by Lloyd Doggett, the Democrat from Texas. It's called the Medicare Dental Hearing and Vision Expansion Act. And Bernie was, you know, he got up and he gave a speech. He says, in the richest country in the history of the world, it is unacceptable that millions of seniors are unable to read because they can't afford eyeglasses, can't have conversations with their grandchildren because they can't afford hearing aids, and have trouble eating because they can't afford dentures. That should not be happening in the United States of America in the year 2025. The time is long overdue for Congress to expand Medicare to include comprehensive coverage for dental, vision, and hearing that our seniors desperately need. Now, of course, the Republicans are all opposed to this because they're all taking money from the giant insurance companies that are running Medicare Advantage scams against Americans and against our government, basically. It's bleeding our government, our Medicare system dry. Mehmet Oz, you know, he wants to become the next leader of Medicare. We haven't had the Senate hearings yet, but Dr. Oz, you know, a big advocate for the big insurance companies and Medicare Advantage. So the Republicans are going to oppose anything that might make Medicare work better because that will hurt the financial prospects of the Medicare Advantage companies. But Crapo says that he's going to continue the conversation with Bernie. And, and Bernie says, well, that's nice that you're going to continue the conversation. I think it's BS, frankly. So that's what's going on. All right, what's on your mind today? Tanya in Cleveland, Ohio. Hey, Tanya, thanks for watching Free Speech TV. What's up?
Hi, how you doing?
I'm fine.
Listen, and I mention it every time I call you. My grandmother was born 1897. She raised me. Her mother was a slave. Slavery wasn't that long ago.
Yep.
And when I mention this, and when I get upset, is this: we're out here. The active Democrats are not out here. We're not doing what we're doing. I want you to. I haven't mentioned the Bernie Sanders things, but Mark Cocaine had a thingy. Jasmine Crockett is talking. We're all out here talking, but the media is just going to make us fascist. We don't have a media. I tell Mark Cuban and get off my feed every time because you won't put your money where your mouth is. We need a media.
Yeah.
MSNBC has shown themselves not to be true.
Yeah.
FSTV has shown it, but it's not out here. We got to get out here. We got to get where we can shop from the rooftops. You know what's happening for me too? Like when I hear the Nebraska people talking about, well, we're getting ready to go. Well, you voted for him. We got to get out here. We got to make people know, why would you do it? Why would you have voted for him twice?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get it, Tanya, and I would love to see Democrats, wealthy Democrats, well, not elected Democrats, but some of the billionaires who support Democrats, really get into the game. Reid Hoffman and some of these others. But most of the Democratic supporting billionaires are not really all that rich. But I guess if you got $1 billion, you could do a hell of a lot. Elon Musk is certainly leading the way, showing us how oligarchs can buy politicians and buy governments. It should be the battle of the oligarchs.
How do we do it $2 at a time? How do we do it as people?
Yeah.
Maybe $2, $5 at a time, and build ourselves a media. Yeah. We got to learn how to do that. No, we can't. We are the leaders.
There is a lot of good media that we can support, Tanya. There are good progressive radio stations. I'm on most of them. There are good nonprofit progressive radio stations. I'm on many of them. There's Free Speech TV television network. There's Sirius XM has a channel, the Progress Channel, which we're on right now, channel 127. Support those advertisers, support those channels. We do have a media infrastructure. It's not a very large one. It's not a very robust one. And we all need to be keeping our eye on what happens as Paramount is spinning off, or whoever owns it right now, is spinning off MSNBC into a private company. Apparently some of these firings recently were in anticipation of that. I think we need to be supporting the media we have as a starting point. And speaking out on social media, and particularly getting active over on Blue Sky. Blue Sky has just, turned into a really great place. I have pretty much altogether stopped posting on X because it's such a sewer. Tanya, thank you for the call. Spot on. Thank you. 27 minutes past the hour. We'll be back with your calls on the other side of this break. It's the Thom Hartmann program, The True People's Media. Stay with us.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann program. Call 202-808-9925.
I guess it's Comcast that owns MSNBC, just for the record. Anyhow, speaking the truth to multinational corporations, would really rather you didn't know. I'll be right back here. Hey, it's day 3 here of the 2 weeks of our spring fund drive here on Free Speech TV. And as always, Free Speech TV just has you. We really need your support, or Free Speech TV really needs your support. The funds go, straight to Free Speech TV, which is just, it's just amazing that we've got an entire television network here that's running on this little tiny budget. Some really dedicated people, underpaid, overworked, and they're just doing great. The revolutionary figure highlight for the day, a new feature that the folks at Free Speech TV are sharing with us, is Chris Smalls. Chris Smalls wasn't some high-powered executive. He wasn't a politician. He was just a guy who was working at an Amazon warehouse. And when COVID hit and Amazon refused to protect its workers, Chris spoke up, and in return, Amazon fired him. Instead of disappearing, though, he got organized. He and his fellow workers built the first ever union at an Amazon facility. Amazon threw everything they had at him, spent millions of dollars on union busting, intimidation attacks, tactics, political attacks. But Chris and his team won anyway. So if you believe in workers' rights, if you believe in holding the powerful, people like Jeff Bezos accountable, if you believe in independent media that doesn't answer to billionaires like Free Speech TV, then we need you to step up right now. There's a lot of ways you can contribute to Free Speech TV, or at least two big ways that you can contribute to Free Speech TV. One is to make a monthly gift. The other is to do a one-time gift. You can do both at the same time if you call 877-378-8669. The one-time gifts, there are premiums, gifts that you get for giving a gift. With a $20 gift, you have your choice of the Elect a Clown, Expect a Circus bumper sticker, or the This Is Not Normal bumper sticker. With a $120 gift, you have your choice of the Talking About Abolition book by Sonali, or my book, The Hidden History of the American Dream, autographed by the author. With a $1,000 gift, there's all 10 of my books in the Hidden History series, all 10 books, each autographed by the author. A great gift, by the way. Or you can come here to Portland and hang out with us and do a meet and greet. So while you are considering how much of a gift you're going to give and whether you're going to do a one-time gift or whether you're going to, sign up to make $15 a month or $30 a month or $70 a month or whatever works with your particular finances, while you're considering that, I mentioned on the program yesterday Mario Savio. Mario Savio was arguably the leader of the free speech movement at Berkeley back in 64 and 65. And this is a movement that really inspired student activism literally all around the world and led directly to the major anti-Vietnam War protests and teach-ins and sit-ins and all kinds of other things that many of us participated with back in the 66, 67, 60, really 67, 68, through the early 70s when finally the Vietnam War was ended. So here is Mario Savio at Berkeley, at California's Berkeley campus, explaining the importance of civil disobedience. Here it is.
So here we are. 4 students are getting the axe. 6 organizations are getting the axe for standing up this semester and for fighting for these things. They're getting the axe not for what they did, but for what we have done. They spoke for us. They were part of us. They have been singled out, and they're going to be chopped off.
We were told the following: if President Kerr actually tried to get something more liberal out of the regents in his telephone conversations, why didn't he make some public statement to that effect? And the answer we received from a well-meaning liberal was the following. He said, would you ever imagine the manager of a firm making a statement publicly in opposition to his board of directors? That's the answer. Well, I ask you to consider, if this is a firm, and if the Board of Regents are the Board of Directors, and if President Kerr, in fact, is the manager, then I tell you something, the faculty are a bunch of employees, and we're the raw materials. But we're a bunch of raw materials that don't mean to have any process upon us, don't mean to be made into any product, don't mean to end up being bought by some clients of the university, be they the government, be they industry, be they organized labor, be they anyone. We're human beings. There's a time when the operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part. And you've got to put your bodies upon the gears and upon the wheels, upon the levers, upon all the apparatus, and you've got to make it stop. And you've got to indicate to the people who run it, to the people who own it, that unless you're free, the machine will be prevented from working at all.
There you go, Mario Savio. He passed away from a heart attack in 1996, by the way. But the student movements, this is specifically on the program yesterday, I was referencing, the arrest of Mahmoud Khalil by the Trump administration, apparently signed off on by our Secretary of State, the former senator from Florida. This is anyhow, this is the Free Speech TV fundraiser, not my program. So please call now, 877-378-8669, or go to freespeech.org/donate and make your contribution now. It's important. Thank you. Help support progressive radio. If you're listening to us on a commercial station, call their advertisers and let them know you're listening. If you're listening to us on Pacifica, or one of our many nonprofit stations, please support them when they do their fundraising drives. Thanks for supporting Progressive Talk Radio, and tag you're it.
Donald Trump's got a plan, it's retribution in disguise. Justice twisted, truth erased as the people's freedom dies. Investigators, prosecutors, they're all now in his sights. He'll rewrite the rules of justice, turn the day into the night. The great revenge is here, the warnings were too late. Trump's Orwellian America, a twisted, darkened state. Show trials in the shadows, arrest without a crime. The clock is ticking backwards, we're running out of time.
What about 35 minutes past the hour, and what's on your mind today? Carrie in Champaign, Illinois. Hey, Carrie, what's up?
Hey, how you doing, Tom?
I'm well. What's on your mind?
I got a two-part question for you. This is about Elon Musk. With the economy being bled the way it is right now and the stock market going down all red, how do you think, what is the end game with this? And how do you think this is going to work out with what Musk and Trump are doing? And the other question is, after this, if we flip this over back the other way, what type of outcome, as far as them being lawless, what type of maybe you could say punishment or laws that will affect them, say once this turns over and go back the other way? What is your opinion on what's going to happen?
I honestly don't know, Carrie. My concern is that our nation has been altered in ways that will be very difficult to back away from. Obviously, the corruption of America by money in politics is massive. And, Citizens United was arguably one of the most destructive things that happened to America in the last 100 years. And whether anything can be done about that, or whether we're just going to end up like Russia, or like probably more likely like Hungary, a soft dictatorship rather than a hard dictatorship, is really hard to know. But it seems to me that these guys are moving so fast. They're breaking so many things. They're doing so much damage to our federal government. They're doing so much damage to our reputation around the world. Taking down USAID is massive. I mean, it's a massive destruction of American soft power around the world, and which is going to make hard power more necessary under some circumstances, which increases the risk of war. I mean, this administration is just trashing our country, and whether we can recover from it, how we recover from it, I just don't know. I can see what's going on, but I have no crystal ball, Kerry.
All right, Tom, thanks.
Yeah, good talking to you. Sorry about that. I don't have an easy answer. Brian in Baltimore. Hey, Brian, what's on your mind today? Brian in Baltimore, Maryland? Going once? Going twice? Carla in Roxbury, Michigan, or Rothbury, Michigan. Hey, Carla, what's on your
yes.
Rothbury, what's on your mind?
Hi, my family has been a decades-long supporter of you, Tom, and I am now a first-time caller. I'm happy to be talking with you.
Thank you.
First, I just wanted to caution you a little bit about the wording you used in your opening statement about the rape of E. Jean Carroll being nothing compared to what might happen in the ICE camps. It will
No,
never
I wasn't
be
talking about
nothing.
ICE camps. I said it may be nothing compared to what Donald Trump has planned for America. And I get it. I shouldn't.
Yeah.
I don't mean to minimize rape. Certainly.
It's never nothing for rape victims.
Yeah. Good point. Good point.
So I want to encourage your. No, I am a Michigan resident, and I want to say that I will not gladly, but boisterously accept if Canada turns off my electricity altogether, if that will help make the point.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want that to happen, but something drastic does need to happen. So I'm willing to go
It wouldn't
through that.
brown out America. It wouldn't brown out Michigan. I think what it would do is just dramatically raise your electricity rates, because Michigan is part of the only state that has an independent grid is Texas. Michigan is part of a huge network that stretches from the Rockies to the East Coast. There will be plenty of electricity. It's just the question of how much it's going to cost.
Right, yes.
And how many old coal plants they're going to have to keep online or even increase the intensity of the poison that they're burning. But Doug Ford backed off on that yesterday, Carla.
Yes, he did. But there was a threat in there that he would joyfully even cut us right off.
Yeah.
And when I read that, I thought, well, okay, I'm in.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I'm
I want to encourage your listeners to do something. Follow Michelle Obama's plea to just do something. I'm temporarily housebound, so I can't get out for the protests, but I'm making calls to my representatives, and I'm writing postcards supporting Susan Crawford for Wisconsin Supreme Court. We can all do something, and tag you're it. Thanks for your words and your work, Tom.
Okay, thank you, Carla, and for your I appreciate your correction of me, and thanks for the positive encouragement to others. I appreciate it. James in Wivaho, United Kingdom, UK. Hey, James, what's up?
Wivaho, United Kingdom, first-time caller. I used to listen to you on Clear Channel Radio out of Asheville when I lived in North Carolina.
Oh, my, yeah.
And that's why I'm calling.
Uh-huh. So what's up?
Thank you for all you're doing to help save our democracy, Tom.
Well, thank you. Thank you for calling in from the UK.
4th, January 4th, 2018, I was sitting in a car garage, Chandler's Tire in Swannanoa, and Fox TV was on, of course, in the lobby. And the NATO summit was occurring at that time. And I looked at the gentleman who was sitting across from me, and I said, NATO's a pretty good idea, don't you think? He said, yes, I do. And so does General Mattis and Tillerson. I said, do you think they can keep it together? He said, well, I hope so. I know them very well. I've golfed with them. I said, really? You golf with those guys? Do you know Trump? Oh, he says, yeah, I've golfed with him, too. I was his campaign chairperson.
Whoa.
In Western North Carolina. And if I wanted to be on his staff, all I have to do is call him and say I'd like to be Commerce Secretary, because I helped him find General Mattis, McMaster, Tillerson, and Kelly. All four of those were appointees. I said, what about Bannon? He said, he's not mine. I have nothing to do with him.
Yeah. I wonder if the guy is singing the same song today.
Tell me more. Yeah. What can you tell me more about him? And he said, basically, he cheats. He cheats at everything.
Yeah. Well, we know he cheats
I
at
had
golf.
to tell him to his face when all this stuff was going on with Ukraine and the Biden. They were trying to get dirt on Biden. He said, if you keep this up, you're going to be the first president to be impeached, and I'll have nothing to do with you. So this is clearly a guy who I would not have, any political connection with. He was friends with Billy Graham. But I wonder where Tillerson, Kelly, McMaster, where these guys are now.
Well, McMaster and Kelly have
both
both come out and trash talked Trump. To the best of my knowledge, Rex Tillerson has just quietly gone into retirement. I mean, he was an oil industry executive. He's richer than Midas. He doesn't need to or want to, I think, participate in politics any longer.
Yeah. Well, he should be coming out. He shouldn't be taking, his retirement plan.
Yeah, I get it. That's a fascinating story, James. I appreciate you sharing it with us, and I hope it's not your last call.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot. Tom in Columbus, Ohio. Hey, Tom, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom, I want to talk about something going on in your neck of the woods. It's Musk was into the Bonneville Power Authority. Now, the Bonneville Power Authority is from the Bonneville Dam. It's been around almost 88 years. It is totally self-funding. He doesn't need to get in there and get efficiency.
Right.
We're talking power grid for all the part of 8 states and up into British Columbia.
Oh, you are. I see you're watching me on Free Speech TV. The lights in this room are being provided by water going over the Bonneville Dam right now.
Exactly, and the insanity of getting rid of people with institutional knowledge, like the dams or not. The hydroelectric dam, the Bonneville Dam, does flood control and salmon. But
has Tom, the billionaires desperately need their tax cut. And you've got to lay off a couple 100,000, American workers who are being paid for with government funds to free up that money so that Elon Musk and Donald Trump can have another tax break. I mean, they're paying, holy God, they're paying 4% income tax right now. They want to get it, that's just way too much for these guys.
I know, but on a personal note, Tom, my late grandfather had an orchard in Southern Oregon, but over time, he got water from things like the Bonneville Power Authority. He got his lights turned on. In World War II, he worked at Hanford, and they also strung lines to Seattle for Boeing. They helped us win the war. Musk needs to stay the blank out of this stuff.
Yeah.
It's working.
Yeah. I'm with you, Tom. I'm with you. And excellent point. I mean, just like I said earlier, the damage that is being done right now by these guys to this country is going to take decades to recover from. And that's why they're doing it, in my opinion. I personally believe that Donald Trump and Elon Musk are doing this at the behest of Vladimir Putin. I might be wrong. I don't know. I have no specific evidence of that, but it sure seems that way to me.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
I mean, Jeff Merkley in the United States Senate asking Trump nominees, is Donald Trump a Russian agent? I think the answer is yes. And welcome back. Sean in Barrington, New Jersey. Hey, Sean, thanks for watching us on YouTube. What's up?
Hey, Tom. I just wanted to get your thoughts on something that's just been eating at me since the election, and that is this idea of the mandate. Now, I'm sure you've watched all these conservatives go back to their town halls and get yelled at, and they hide behind mandate. Every PR clip we see on the news, mandate, right? Yeah. Here's the thing, Tom. Trump beat Kamala by fewer votes than he lost to Hillary Clinton in 2016.
Right.
So what is a mandate?
Well, Trump.
And it's just driving me insane that they just hide behind it as if the entire country is behind this guy.
I know.
And nobody stands up to him and calls the BS. You know what I'm saying?
I absolutely do, Sean, and you're absolutely right. He didn't even win a majority of the vote. He just won a plurality. He did not cross the 50% threshold. It is. Well, what can you do? I mean, Republicans lie through their teeth. They get together. What's going to be the lie today? Well, the lie today is going to be that we have this mandate to destroy Social Security. Elon Musk just yesterday came out and said, Social Security's got to go. At least according to an email I got just a little bit ago from Social Security Works. I mean, that's pretty grim stuff. But I'm with you, Sean. I think it's outrageous. Sean, thank you for the call. Bob in Tahlequah, Oklahoma. Hey, Bob, what's up?
Hello, Tom.
I hope you enjoyed some time off. You sure deserve it.
Well, thank you. We did. It was nice to hang out with family, actually, more than anything else. I was not such a big fan of the venue, but it was nice being with family.
Well, that's great. That's great. Well, be well. I just want to. I'll be quick. It's hard to make this point and be quick, but I'll try. You talk a lot about, and we hear a lot about, traitors, traitorous activity. They're arguing in on the mainstream channels, about whether or not he's an operative or an agent or this word or that word to describe Trump's association with Russia. And I just wonder, with all this going down and what you say is, are we going to be like Russia when this? No. The answer is emphatically no. At least not not me. This tyranny that's being forced on us and has been all my life, all your life. It's got historical reference. It's got fact-based stories. What are we going to do about these traitors? I mean,
well, we had to vote them out of office to begin with, Bob, and that means getting in with your local Democratic Party. It means getting politically active. It means speaking out on social media. It means calling into right-wing radio shows and giving them hell. All those things. I mean, you know the drill.
Yes, I do, and I'm speaking beyond that drill. I do those things. We do those things. People I know do those things. Beyond that, given that it's not working, how are we going to hold them responsible, and how will we avoid being like that?
Well, I think at the moment, basically, we've got two avenues, Bob. We have the political avenue, which I was just talking about, and we have the public opinion avenue, which involves showing up for protests, going to indivisible.org, going to 5050.one, and signing up for protests, things like that, and being active on social media. That's where we're at. Hey, thanks so much for sharing our program and for reaching out to our stations and sponsors and letting them know that you're listening. It really means a lot to us. A lot of people wonder, where did this whole right-wing movement to basically gut our freedoms and end DEI and all this other, where did this all begin? It all started back in 1951 with a book called The Conservative Mind, From Burke to Eliot by Russell Kirk. And he argued that if the middle class ever got too big, you'd see young people and women and racial minorities all get up on their hind feet and start protesting and basically screwing up America. And in the 50s, even Republicans thought he was nuts. But then the 60s happened and all those protests, and suddenly Republicans thought, yeah, he's right. We've got to destroy the middle class, or at least cut it back. And that was Reagan's mandate when he came into office in 1981. There's a whole article about this. You can read all the details. It's titled The GOP's 60-Year Conspiracy to Kill Our Democracy. None dare call it treason, but I will. Over at HartmannReport.com. Check it out.
Hi, I'm Cricket, just a puppy, but I've seen some wicked sights, from politicians hurting pets. Oh, it keeps me up at night. Christy Noem said I was dangerous, so she took me down. Now I'm here to sing the truth about these leaders' frowns. Do Republicans hate pets and critters? From puppies to birds to helpless little critters. They kick us, they strap us, they light us on fire. Their trail of abuses just keeps climbing higher.
52 minutes past the hour. Welcome back. Picking up your calls here. Linda in Capitol Heights, Maryland. Hey, Linda, what's up?
Hi, Tom. How you doing? Yes. The thing is, the American people got to understand that we are in control of the United States. Elon Musk and Donald Trump is not in control. Like the late, great Joe Madison say, what are we going to do about it?
Yep.
I can tell you what we can do, what we're going to do about it. What we can do, we can recall the Republican senators and Republican Congress people that are not doing the work of the American people. And when we protest, when we go to town halls, we need to say the word recall. And then they will understand that the people got the control of the United States and not those two.
I'm with you, Linda, although I would suggest that the word primary will strike fear in their hearts a lot more than recall, because everybody knows that recalls are, pretty impossible. But primaries, yeah, primaries. And I think there's going to be some Democrats who are going to be facing some serious primary challenges because up to this moment. And I'm with you. And I also, you mentioned Joe Madison. Joe was a dear friend of mine. And his wife and me and my son, we traveled. His wife Sherry, we traveled to Darfur together. I've known Joe for years and years. He threw me a 60th birthday party. In fact, back in the day. I mean, that was 14 years ago. So I miss Joe. Thank you for mentioning him. But Linda, I think you're right. And thank you so much for the call. It's nice to hear from you. Marty in Worth, Illinois. Hey, Marty, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom, thank you for taking my call. Happy hump day.
Yeah.
Quick point, I think your book, The Crash of 2016, is going to to be like more prophetic as as this crisis.
Yeah, I've been thinking I should rewrite that book. Because it's out of print now.
Seriously,
I got the rights back.
remember reading that and it's like, wait a second. I'm like, that's what's going on right this very moment.
Yep.
But what I really wanted to call about is this rep Al Green, and just say what a hero he is.
Yes.
And how brave he was. And if you did not catch the speech he gave in his response to being censured at the Congress, right? Because he was allowed to retort, right? And they gave him 40 minutes. And if you haven't seen it, I posted on my Facebook. It was that impassioned and very detailed and very thorough, and said, no, I said he does not have a mandate to cut Medicaid. Because, instead, a lot of these poor people that are in my district that I represent, that I stand up for, that's all that they have right now. And I was in his whole speech. It was very impassioned. It was very well thought out. And
I'm with you. Al Green is an absolute hero, Marty. I completely agree. Thank you for calling and making that point. Nikki in Chicago. Hey, Nikki, what's up?
Hi. I was calling because you had talked about what was going to, the man's question was about what was going to happen if we were able to impeach Trump, or how would we go backwards. Sean Cason, representative in Illinois, I don't know if it was just this morning, came out and said, and this is just a guesstimate, but he said it's going to take years to redo the American reputation.
Yes.
That what
it's
Trump
probably going to take decades. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and he said because we have a reputation and we have ruined it, and so even if we go back, they're going to say, in the international public is going to say, but wait, if you elect another Republican in 4 years, we're going to be right back where we were.
Yeah.
So how do you repair that? You're right, decades, not one decade, but decades.
Yep. Yeah. No, the damage that they are doing intentionally, and like I said, I if they're not doing it on behalf of Putin, I guarantee you he's very, very happy with what Musk and Trump are doing right now.
Yeah.
Whether it's
anyway, it was a good question the man asked.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you, Nikki. Thank you for the call. We'll be back on the other side of this break. Will a worldwide boycott of America make any difference? And Greenlanders just had an election. I'll tell you about that on the other side of the break. Stay with us.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
Here's a thought-provoking bumper sticker. The system is...
In addition to bringing you the Thom Hartmann program here on Free Speech TV and Video Media Online, We also have a whole set of ways you can interact with us and tools you can use to spread the word about the importance of democracy and the threats to it in our republic. First, there's your daily homework. Student Etiquette puts together a daily email newsletter that has a link to every story I discuss on the air, so you can find my sources and you can share them with your friends. It's free and you can sign up at thomhartmann.com. Second, I publish my daily take every day over at the hartmannreport.com website. That's also free if you want the daily 5 days a week rant in your inbox. No ads either. Third, we have the podcasts. There's the free 1-hour version of our daily show that's advertising supported. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts normally. And then there's also the podcast of the entire 3-hour show with no advertisements, and that's available by subscription over at thomhartmann.com. So check them all out at thomhartmann.com and hartmannreport.com.
We say fight back!
Hey, it's day 3 here of the 2 weeks of our Spring Fund Drive here on Free Speech TV. And as always, Free Speech TV just has you. We really need your support, or Free Speech TV really needs your support. The funds go, straight to Free Speech TV, which is just, it's just amazing that we've got an entire television network here that's running on this little tiny budget. Some really dedicated people. Underpaid, overworked, and they're just doing great. The revolutionary figure highlight for the day, a new feature that the folks at Free Speech TV are sharing with us, is Chris Smalls. Chris Smalls wasn't some high-powered executive. He wasn't a politician. He was just a guy who was working at an Amazon warehouse. And when COVID hit and Amazon refused to protect its workers, Chris spoke up, and in return, Amazon fired him. Instead of disappearing, though, he got organized. He and his fellow workers built the first ever union at an Amazon facility. Amazon threw everything they had at him, spent millions of dollars on union busting, intimidation attacks, tactics, political attacks. But Chris and his team won anyway. So if you believe in workers' rights, if you believe in holding the powerful, people like Jeff Bezos accountable, if you believe in independent media that doesn't answer to billionaires like Free Speech TV, then we need you to step up right now. There's a lot of ways you can contribute to Free Speech TV, or at least 2 big ways that you can contribute to Free Speech TV. One is to make a monthly gift. The other is to do a one-time gift. You can do both at the same time if you call 877-378-8669. The one-time gifts, there are premiums, gifts that you get for giving a gift. With a $20 gift, you have your choice of the Elect a Clown, Expect a Circus bumper sticker, or the This Is Not Normal bumper sticker. With a $120 gift, you have your choice of the Talking About Abolition book by Sonali, or my book, The Hidden History of the American Dream, autographed by the author. With a $1,000 gift, there's all 10 of my books in the Hidden History series, all 10 books, each autographed by the author. A great gift, by the way. Or you can come here to Portland and hang out with us and do a meet and greet. So while you are considering how much of a gift you're going to give, and whether you're going to do a one-time gift, or whether you're going to, sign up to make $15 a month, or $30 a month, or $70 a month, or whatever works with your particular finances, while you're considering that, I mentioned on the program yesterday Mario Savio. Mario Savio was arguably the leader of the free speech movement at Berkeley back in '64 and '65. And this is a movement that really inspired student activism literally all around the world and led directly to the major anti-Vietnam War protests and teach-ins and sit-ins and all kinds of other things that many of us participated with back in the 66, 67, 60, really 67, 68, through the early 70s when finally the Vietnam War was ended. So here is Mario Savio at Berkeley, at California's Berkeley campus, explaining the importance of civil disobedience. Here it is.
So here we are. 4 students are getting the axe. 6 organizations are getting the axe for standing up this semester and for fighting for these things. They're getting the axe not for what they did, but for what we have done. They spoke for us. They were part of us. They have been singled out, and they're going to be chopped off.
We were told the following: if President Kerr actually tried to get something more liberal out of the regents in his telephone conversations, why didn't he make some public statement to that effect? And the answer we received from a well-meaning liberal was the following. He said, would you ever imagine the manager of a firm making a statement publicly in opposition to his board of directors? That's the answer. Well, I ask you to consider, if this is a firm, and if the Board of Regents are the Board of Directors, and if President Kerr, in fact, is the manager, then I tell you something, the faculty are a bunch of employees, and we're the raw materials. But we're a bunch of raw materials that don't mean to have any process upon us, don't mean to be made into any product, don't mean to end up being bought by some clients of the university, be they the government, be they industry, be they organized labor, be they anyone, or human beings. There's a time when the operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part. And you've got to put your bodies upon the gears and upon the wheels, upon the levers, upon all the apparatus, and you've got to make it stop. And you've got to indicate to the people who run it, to the people who own it, that unless you're free, the machine will be prevented from working at all.
There you go, Mario Savio. He passed away from a heart attack in 1996, by the way. But the student movements, this is specifically on the program yesterday, I was referencing the arrest of Mahmoud Khalil by the Trump administration, apparently signed off on by our Secretary of State, the former senator from Florida. This is anyhow, this is the Free Speech TV fundraiser, not my program. So please call now, 877-378-8669, or go to freespeech.org/donate and make your contribution now. It's important. Thank you.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Welcome to the third hour of our program. Came as a surprise to me, says Susan Collins, the Republican in the United States Senate. We're talking about the continuing resolution, the funding bill that just passed the House of Representatives yesterday, that is now gone to the Senate. They have until Friday. If they can't fund the government by Friday, it starts shutting down. As I mentioned in the first hour of the program, this bill is not a clean continuing resolution. It's not simply, oh yeah, just keep doing what we're doing. It contains huge cuts to government functions. So it's actually, new legislation along with, continued funding. And one of the big cuts is to the city of Washington, D.C., which gets its budget from Congress. It's federal territory. And, it's because it's not a state yet. So Rand Paul has already said that he won't vote for it because he just doesn't like continuing resolutions, and anything he can do to get his name in the media, he'll do. But now Roger Wicker, the Republican from Mississippi, just came out and said just a few minutes ago, I'm not going to vote for this thing. Ron Johnson, the wackadoodle Republican from Wisconsin, he said, most likely I will not vote for it. Susan Collins said, that was not a provision that was in the Senate bill or anything we advocated for. It came as a surprise to me and explains why the mayor called me. Her home state newspaper, the Bangor Daily News, reports that the House bill may result in huge state budget cuts to Maine. Quote, U.S. Senators Susan Collins and Angus King have led their Capitol Hill peers in obtaining earmarks worth hundreds of millions of dollars for Maine projects, but they would not be included in a bill that would avert a government shutdown. So, and in fact, oddly, the Democratic congressman from Maine, Jared Golden, was the only Democrat to vote for this thing, this monstrosity. That probably the Republicans now, you know, and Mark Warner says, you know, this is going to tough. He says purely mean-spirited hit at the district. It's outrageous. So keep an eye on this. We may be looking at a government shutdown. Meanwhile, from Canada to Europe, a movement to boycott American goods is spreading. You know, what impact is this going to have on the United States? Well, you know, clearly, if American companies are selling a lot of their products overseas, and many of them do, I mean, 30% of all world trade, almost a third of all world trade is between the United States and Europe. And if that slows down substantially, you're going to see layoffs in the United States, which, you know, ties in with this whole recession theme that, you know, I keep telling you, Donald Trump and Elon Musk want a recession so that they can buy stock on the cheap and make themselves richer than they ever have been. And I think, frankly, they're running a pump and dump scheme, but, you know, I have no proof of that, but it sure looks that way. But here, this is an article by Peter Beaumont in The Guardian today. It's titled, "I Feel Utter Anger. From Canada to Europe, a movement to boycott U.S. goods is spreading." And he starts out writing about Christian Tetzlaff, who is a famous German violinist, classical violinist, who just this week canceled a tour of the United States. He said there seems to be a quietness or a denial about what's going on. He's talking about Trump. He says, "I feel utter anger. I cannot go on with this feeling inside. I just cannot go and play a tour of beautiful concerts." And it turns out that these boycotts are happening all over the place. I mean, not just the Tesla boycott. That's getting a lot of press, of course. You know, you've seen in some European countries, Tesla sales are down by more than half. But in Canada now, there's a slew of apps. There are three big ones are Buy Beaver, Maple Scan, and Is This Canadian? These are smartphone apps where you scan the QR code on a product in a supermarket or a grocery or a store, and it will tell you whether it was made in Canada or not. So if you're Canadian, you can avoid buying American-made goods. The number of Canadians who normally visit the United States via road trips in the month of February dropped 23% year over year. In Sweden, about 40,000 users have joined a face group calling for a boycott of U.S. companies. And one of the things they're calling for is a boycott of Facebook, because it's an American company. But 40,000 people have joined that Swedish Facebook group. In Denmark, there's widespread anger about Trump's threat because, of course, Denmark controls Greenland. And in Greenland, the largest grocery company, which is called the Salling Group, has said that they're going to mark all European-made goods with a star so that consumers can choose them over products made in the United States. Norway's largest oil bunkering operation, which used to sell oil to refuel American military ships, has announced that it's going to boycott that. It's no longer supplying diesel fuel to American ships. In the United Kingdom, there's this thing. Zoe Gardner is the organizer of the Stop Trump Coalition. It's seen a lot of interest on TikTok. All over TikTok, people are angry, angry, angry. The EU announced this morning retaliatory tariffs on U.S. industrial and farm products. The EU measure will cover goods in the United States worth around $28 billion, and not just steel and aluminum, by the way, which is what we tariffed, but also textiles, home appliances, and agricultural goods, motorcycles, bourbon, peanut butter, and jeans. Why? Because those are things that are made in red states. They're going after red states right now. These guys are no dummies. This is a quote from this article by the Associated Press, Lauren Cook and David McHugh. Quote, "EU officials have made clear that the tariffs, taxes on imports, are aimed at products made in Republican-held states, such as beef and poultry from Kansas and Nebraska, and wood products from Alabama and Georgia." So, you know, here we are, right? $1.5 trillion in trade, 30% of global trade between the U.S. and the EU. And this time, the action is taking two steps. The first, on April 1st, they're putting into place what they're calling rebalancing measures. They're basically reciprocal tariffs. And then on April 13th come the additional $19.6 billion in tariffs on U.S. exports. Marcos Sefcovic is the EU trade minister. He traveled to Washington last month and tried to work things out. And after he got back home, back in Europe, I'm not sure what country he's a citizen of, he met with Howard Lutnick, our Commerce Secretary. He said on Wednesday it became clear that during his trip that, quote, the EU is not the problem. He said, I argued to avoid the unnecessary burden of measures and countermeasures, but you need a partner for that. You need both hands to clap. Yeah, you think? So how long is this going to last? How's this going to play out? Nobody knows. Nobody knows. But in Greenland, they just had an election, and they just elected. In fact, it surprised them. Who won? It was a center-right, pro-business. It's called the Democratic Party, Democratit Party, Democratic Party, which wants gradual independence from Denmark. They won 30% of the vote. And the number one thing that they have to pitch is, we hate Donald Trump. It's basically, and because, seceding from Denmark is actually very popular in Greenland. Keep in mind, there's only 52,000 people in Greenland. This is a little country population-wise. They have a huge landmass, but it's a little tiny group of people. And they would like to have independence. They'd like to run their own government. So, but they, the major party, the Democratic Party that just won, doesn't want to have anything to do with Trump. The problem is they didn't get enough of the vote to control Parliament. So they're going to have to form a coalition government. And the number two party is the Nalarak Party, which won a quarter of the vote. 30% went to the Democratic Party. The Nalarak Party actually likes Donald Trump. Now, they haven't gone so far as to say that they want to become, U.S. territory or the 51st state or anything, but they want, because we have a military base there. We spend money in Denmark. We help their economy. And this party wants more of that. So it's going to be real interesting when these two guys get together. This is one of the leader of Jens Fredrik Nielsen, who is the Democratic Party leader there, the guy who won, basically. He told NBC News that, quote, this is a clear message to Trump that we are not for sale. We don't want to be Americans. We don't want to be Danes either. We want to be Greenlanders. And we want our own independence in the future. And we want to build our country by ourselves, not with his help, with Trump. So we'll see how this plays out. But another one of those notes of, boy, do we live in interesting times. It's 16 minutes past the hour. That's it for me with regard to news for the day. What's on your mind? I'll pick up your calls on the other side of the break, and we can continue the various conversations we've been having. Stay with us.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Helping you win the water cooler wars. I'll be right back with your calls. And welcome back. Whew. A lot going on, eh? Jim in Chicago. Hey, Jim, thanks for watching Free Speech TV. What's on your mind?
Yeah, Tom. I am responding to your earlier caller and asking where it's all going to end with this Trump thing. Like you, I don't know where it's going to end, but I do think I'm predicting where it's going to go for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Leonard Leo has got a plan, well thought out, that he wants the government to crash. He wants people in the streets. and he wants to seed the protesters perhaps with violent Republicans. He wants emergency by Trump and the military called in to call the rioters, throwing the leading protesters into jail.
How do you know this, Jim?
Oh, I'm only surmising. I don't know it.
All right.
Yeah,
so
I'm
let's
surmising.
qualify that. Yeah.
Yeah, what I'm saying is that I think this doesn't make sense, except that they want disaster for a reason other than money. Leonard Leo is after something other than money.
Well, he's sitting on $1.4 billion right now, so yeah, I think you're probably right.
Yeah. So, what can we do about it? The only thing I can think of is that we have to be very alert to the fact that we can't be acting in a way that provokes violence or in any way, the best.
I agree with that. They would love to have people throwing Molotov cocktails in the streets. They would absolutely love it.
Yes, or even bricks would be enough for Trump.
Yeah.
What I want to ask you in along with this is, what is your feeling or thoughts about control of the military? I think Trump can look for a sycophant among the generals.
He's found them. He's found them. He decapitated the senior levels of the military last month, and he's putting in people who will sign basically loyalty pledges. They've got a questionnaire for people. I'm not sure if they're doing this in the military. They're certainly doing it, in other positions where you have to say, here's my favorite thing about Donald Trump, and here's my social media posts loving Donald Trump, and I will be loyal to Trump. That kind of stuff. I mean, it's all over the place. So yeah.
Well, then I'm afraid that it does support what I'm fearful of. That's about it, Tom. I'm just very worried.
Yeah. No, I agree with you, Jim, and I just have here 30 seconds till we're going to hit a break, so I'll just share my thoughts with you about this. I think that more and more Americans, literally every day that goes by, we're 52 days into the Trump administration, more and more Americans are waking up to how dangerous, how deadly to democracy, how toxic this administration is, how Donald Trump and J.D. Vance are sucking up to Putin, and Elon Musk apparently as well. Calling Mark Kelly a traitor, for example. I mean, that's beyond obscene. And why? What's the end game here? There are some of these Republicans who just hate democracy. They want autocracy. They want a strongman government. There are others who want oligarchy. But in either case, it's not democracy. That's not what they want. Our daily song is now available on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, YouTube Music, Pandora, Tidal, Deezer, iHeartRadio, and a whole bunch of other platforms. Just look for songs by Louise and Thom Hartmann. Check it out.
The king walks tall, crown shining bright. No one dares to stand and fight. The light turns green, he moves ahead, while the ones who swore to stop him turn and bow instead. Is tyranny getting a green light? Are we just watching as the dark takes the night? When silence is louder than a battle cry, tell me, are we letting freedom die?
22 minutes past the hour, picking up your calls here. Patrick in Seaside, California. Hey, Patrick, what's up?
Wow, 52,000 people. I think there's almost triple that here in the Monterey Peninsula.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, it's like I said, population-wise, a very small country.
I've been thinking about a number of things, but I was keen off of you saying, that Trump's an asset. I've been resisting that for 9 years, but that's what I've been saying for the last couple of weeks. I mean, like, what else could explain what they're doing, destroying from the inside every branch, well, not every branch, every department, every agency of government, like intentionally destroying everything. Yeah. They're, people asking the rhetorical question, what's their end game? Their end game is to turn us into one giant Mogadishu run by an evangelical version of the Manson family.
I don't think that you're being hyperbolic, Patrick. I agree with you. Did you see the latest today? Social Security Administration is talking about shutting down their telephone helplines. 10,000 baby boomers retire every day, and many of them call Social Security to say, hey, what do I do? How do I do it? I don't know what to do. I'm not, internet savvy. They want to shut down the phone lines because they just laid off 7,000 people at the Social Security Administration. I mean, they want to make us hate Social Security, so we'll go along with them turning it over to the big banks.
Well, if they cut or abolish or get rid of Social Security, I have two dear friends, musician friends, who will be homeless because they live on that. Two things that I was thinking about. The main thing I was like I said, was keying off of you saying, Trump and Musk are Putin assets. And the other thing I was thinking was just as I'm on hold, wondering to myself, if they have the military shoot a bunch of people at a protest, will the public shut down? And I kind of think no, then you'll see more people out in the streets because people are pissed in this country. Everyone's pissed. Yeah. And, oh, by the way, speaking of pissed, I am hereby in front of you, God, and all of the listeners and viewers of the Thom Hartmann Show, volunteering my services as your Luther personal anger translator if I'd be needed.
Okay.
But
hopefully I don't need it.
I mean, and the reason I say that is because I would, like, you could be saying something like the Luther and Obama thing, and I could be saying, an angrier version of what you're saying on a more reasonable,
I get it.
Rational tone.
I get it.
Now, anyway, the thing I wanted to ask you was, I've seen this online, and they seem to be progressive sources, but I'm not hearing it on MSNBC, and I'm not seeing it on Raw Story, Alternate, Common Dreams. And I don't know if it's going back to his first term or it's now currently, some high former official in the KGB saying that they recruited Trump in '87. They recruited him, they groomed him, and why is that not making it onto MSNBC and Common Dreams and Alternate? Are people trying to deep dive and get corroboration?
It has been on Common Dreams and Alternate and Raw Story. Krasnov was the code name that they gave Trump. You can search, on Krasnov and you'll find that. But I think that the mainstream media has stayed away from it because it's just a single source. It's one guy, and typically you want more than two sources to verify a story. And that's a pretty explosive story. And, CBS is in the middle of this.
Can he be tracked down and interviewed?
In fact, there was, I think it might have been in The Guardian yesterday or the day before, there was an article about how he has come out and made another public statement. This Muskovov or whatever his name is. Forgive me, I don't recall the name of the Russian former agent, but he's alive. He's around. And this is a story that goes way back. Craig Unger actually wrote a book called Compromat, American Compromat.
I have that. I haven't read it yet. I just got that.
Oh, well, that's got the whole thing laid out in it. I mean, this is not new news. What is new about it is that somebody has come out and verified what was said back in the 80s.
Now that and I wasn't shocked at all that MSNBC fired Joy Reid, but I'd like to see O'Donnell, Chris Hayes, or Rachel have this guy on.
Yeah, I agree. I think it would be fascinating. And at the very least, I'd like them to play that clip from my senator, here in Oregon, just coming right out and saying, "Is Donald Trump an asset?" So, a Russian asset. We'll be right back. It's 27 minutes past the hour. Patrick, thank you for the call.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
We'll be right back with more of your calls. Stay tuned. It's the Thom Hartmann Program. Talk media for the sane among us. Hey, it's day 3 here of the 2 weeks of our Spring Fun Drive here on Free Speech TV. And as always, Free Speech TV just has you. We really need your support, or Free Speech TV really needs your support. The funds go, straight to Free Speech TV, which is just, it's just amazing that we've got an entire television network here that's running on this little tiny budget. Some really dedicated people. Underpaid, overworked, and they're just doing great. The revolutionary figure highlight for the day, a new feature that the folks at Free Speech TV are sharing with us, is Chris Smalls. Chris Smalls wasn't some high-powered executive. He wasn't a politician. He was just a guy who was working at an Amazon warehouse. And when COVID hit and Amazon refused to protect its workers, Chris spoke up, and in return, Amazon fired him. Instead of disappearing, though, he got organized. He and his fellow workers built the first ever union at an Amazon facility. Amazon threw everything they had at him, spent millions of dollars on union busting, intimidation attacks, tactics, political attacks. But Chris and his team won anyway. So if you believe in workers' rights, if you believe in holding the powerful, people like Jeff Bezos accountable, if you believe in independent media that doesn't answer to billionaires like Free Speech TV, then we need you to step up right now. There's a lot of ways you can contribute to Free Speech TV, or at least 2 big ways that you can contribute to Free Speech TV. One is to make a monthly gift. The other is to do a one-time gift. You can do both at the same time if you call 877-378-8669. The one-time gifts, there are premiums, gifts that you get for giving a gift. With a $20 gift, you have your choice of the Elect a Clown, Expect a Circus bumper sticker, or the This Is Not Normal bumper sticker. With a $120 gift, you have your choice of the Talking About Abolition book by Sonali, or my book, The Hidden History of the American Dream, autographed by the author. With a $1,000 gift, there's all 10 of my books in the Hidden History series, all 10 books, each autographed by the author. A great gift, by the way. Or you can come here to Portland and hang out with us and do a meet and greet. So while you are considering how much of a gift you're going to give, and whether you're going to do a one-time gift, or whether you're going to, sign up to make $15 a month, or $30 a month, or $70 a month, or whatever works with your particular finances, while you're considering that, I mentioned on the program yesterday Mario Savio. Mario Savio was arguably the leader of the free speech movement at Berkeley back in 64 and 65. And this is a movement that really inspired student activism literally all around the world, and led directly to the major anti-Vietnam War protests and teach-ins and sit-ins and all kinds of other things that many of us participated with back in the 66, 67, 68, through the early 70s, when finally the Vietnam War was ended. So here is Mario Savio at Berkeley, at California's Berkeley campus, explaining the importance of civil disobedience. Here it is.
So here we are. 4 students are getting the axe. 6 organizations are getting the axe for standing up this semester and for fighting for these things. They're getting the axe not for what they did, but for what we have done. They spoke for us. They were part of us. They have been singled out, and they're going to be chopped off.
We were told the following: if President Kerr actually tried to get something more liberal out of the regents in his telephone conversations, why didn't he make some public statement to that effect? And the answer we received from a well-meaning liberal was the following. He said, would you ever imagine the manager of a firm making a statement publicly in opposition to his board of directors? That's the answer. Well, I ask you to consider, if this is a firm, and if the Board of Regents are the Board of Directors, and if President Kerr, in fact, is the manager, then I tell you something, the faculty are a bunch of employees, and we're the raw materials. But we're a bunch of raw materials that don't mean to have any process upon us, don't mean to be made into any product, don't mean to end up being bought by some clients of the university, be they the government, be they industry, be they organized labor, be they anyone, or human beings. There's a time when the operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart, that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part. And you've got to put your bodies upon the gears and upon the wheels, upon the levers, upon all the apparatus, and you've got to make it stop. And you've got to indicate to the people who run it, to the people who own it, that unless you're free, the machine will be prevented from working at all.
There you go. Mario Savio. He passed away from a heart attack in 1996, by the way. But the student movements, this is specifically on the program yesterday, I was referencing, the arrest of Mahmoud Khalil by the Trump administration, apparently signed off on by our Secretary of State, the former senator from Florida. This is anyhow, this is the Free Speech TV fundraiser, not my program. So please call now, 877-378-8669, or go to freespeech.org/donate and make your contribution now. It's important. Thank you. Share the Thom Hartmann program with your friends. Our podcast, The Hartmann Report, is absolutely free and available wherever fine podcasts are available. And the entire 3-hour podcast is available over at thomhartmann.com. I have 8 suggestions for Democrats for messaging. Democrats seem to have a messaging problem right now. First, Democrats must frame the fight in simple moral terms. Don't be wonky like, hey, we need to expand social safety net. No, say no child in America should go to bed hungry. Second, Democrats need to stop playing defense and instead seize the populist high ground. Like when FDR said, they are unanimous in their hate for me and I welcome their hatred. Third, ruthlessly define the Republican opposition and the morbidly rich oligarchs who own them. Fourth, tell stories instead of facts. Reagan did this with the black welfare queen. He had to lie about it, but we've got lots of great stories. That's number 4. There's 4 more. And they're all over at HartmannReport.com. The title of the article is, If Obama Had Sent a Mob to Kill a Cop, Republicans Would Never Let You Forget It. And it's all about how Democrats can reinvent their messaging to start winning elections big. Check it out.
In 33, a nation's cry, a parliament set ablaze. Leaders seize the fear and flame, democracy's final days. Will history repeat once more? A crisis as the key. Will Trump ignite the fear and doubt to end our liberty?
35 minutes past the hour. Welcome back. Picking up your calls here. Larry in Syosset, New York. Excuse me. Hey, Larry, what's up?
Perfect. Syosset, yes. Okay. I have 2 quick things to go over. One, I also read the book, Crash of 2016, and I don't think you have to rewrite it. Just change the cover.
Okay.
And that's all. And make it 2025.
Yeah. There's a lot of Reagan history in that book, it's not just about economics, but yeah.
Yeah, that's true. The other thing I wanted to go over is something you mentioned earlier when you said that the Republicans are going to primary challenge these people who vote against Trump, and they're going to flood the district with millions and millions of dollars. Well, I just want to let you know that something like that happened here in New York about 4 decades ago, maybe more. When at that time, the Lieutenant Governor Cuomo was running for governor, and a low-level politician but very wealthy man ran against him. He wasn't a billionaire, but he was worth a few $100 million, and he poured $10-12 million into the campaign, a very huge sum at that point. And Cuomo had a beautiful slogan: experience money can't buy. He won the election.
Yeah. Well, what's going to be a bellwether for us, what's going to tell us an awful lot about how, whether or not big money can still swing elections in the United States, is going to be the Wisconsin Supreme Court race. Musk has already put $6 million into that thing.
True. Yes, that's true. That's true. and we'll see how that works.
Yeah.
But that's, you got to push something like that. You're going to push your experience, because the Republicans can't put primary challengers who have a tremendous amount of experience all over the place.
Yeah.
Because if they could, they'd already be elected.
Yeah,
so they pick these low-level people who can't do anything.
No, I get it. And going into the 2024 election, it was all about, are you loyal to Trump? And, we all think Trump is going to make America great again, quack, quack, quack. Now that people are seeing that Trump is not only not making America great again, but he's deconstructing America, apparently on behalf of Vladimir Putin, I suspect that, he may not lose a lot of Republicans, but he couldn't have gotten elected without the independents, the more than a third of Americans who are independents. And I suspect, I haven't seen any good polling on this recently, but I suspect that he is losing them left and right. Larry, thanks for the call. Spot on. Barbara in Kennesaw, Georgia, my old stomping grounds. Hey, Barbara, what's up?
Hey, Tom, thanks for taking my call. The reason I'm calling, I have sort of given up on the Democratic Party, I'm sorry to say. But the reason is because it seems like the corporatists are just in charge. And dear Bernie, he's been doing all he can. And I know that third parties are hard to come by, but, other countries have done that. Think of Bolsonaro.
Yeah, other countries, though, don't have countries that have multiple parties have parliamentary systems, and they don't have first past the post, winner take all elections. We are stuck with two parties. There's no way around that. So, Barbara, what are you going to do about it? You're upset with the Democrats. What are you going to do about it?
Start now. We won't get anywhere because Bolsonaro was thrown out, and it started from the very lowly person in the country, that started the whole ball rolling.
Right. Yeah, yeah, I guess it was Duterte who was just arrested yesterday. Sometimes the mighty fall. I suspect that Trump has insulated himself here, but don't give up on the Democrats, Barbara. It's much better to get inside and fix them. Barbara, I've got to move along. Thank you for the call. Don in Pittsburgh, Kansas. Hey, Don, what's on your mind today?
Well, I just wanted to mention, you talked a little bit about the boycotts against Tesla. Tesla, his political activities have cost Elon Musk over $100 billion.
Yeah, theoretically.
Stock has fallen in half. Sales, in some places, sales have fallen almost 80%.
Yep.
Like for the month of February, in Germany it was 76.1%, and in Australia it was 71.9% down.
Well,
there's
And Don, if I could just interrupt you for a second, that's just the first shoe dropping. The second shoe, the big shoe that's going to drop, is when Wall Street realizes that Tesla stock is like, it's trading at something like 90 times the price-earnings ratio, whereas, all the other car manufacturers are trading at 4 times, 5 times, 6 times. Even Apple and Google are trading at like 12, 15 times, but it's trading at like 90 times. And and forgive me if I'm describing this wrong, I'm not a finance guy, but the point is that the reason Tesla stock was so huge, was so inflated, was that it was viewed not as a car company stock, but as a tech stock. And the tech stocks were, there was this tech bubble in 2000. Well, we've got another one, that seems to be tied to AI. And I think that at some point, Wall Street's going to look at this and say, this really isn't a tech stock. It shouldn't be. And even the other tech stocks aren't valued that high. There's no way this thing should be valued at 90 times PE. And it's going to come back down to earth. It's going to start reflecting the actual underlying value of the assets that Tesla owns and the ability to manufacture and sell cars and possibly, solar systems.
Yeah, well, the electric car, Tesla, of which Musk is not really, he's not this genius, who does everything. He bought a struggling little electric car company called Tesla and, and hired the people to keep running the thing. And, Tesla figured prominently in the early development of the electric car. But BYD in China is analogous to the Model T in the U.S. during Henry Ford's time. It's a cheap, reliable, worldwide. When they first started selling those BYDs, $11,000.
Yeah, for a car that's pretty much the same thing as a Tesla Model Y.
Yeah, so that's why he's protected with 100% tariff.
Yep.
And that, of course, hurts people. I mean, I grew up in Detroit, and, most people don't realize there's been a 25% tariff on pickup trucks since I think it was 1971 or 72. Nixon put it on, quietly. And that forced the Japanese to produce their pickup trucks in the U.S. Toyota has a gigantic pickup truck factory near San Antonio now.
Yep.
And Tesla's biggest factory is in Austin, Texas, which is, you never can, making cars in Austin, Texas? That's not, but that's where it is. It's a 10 million square foot factory.
Yeah.
So, and the other thing is that, I would wonder, these Ford, this guy Ford up there in Ontario, there was two brothers. One was the mayor of Toronto, and they were both right wingers. These aren't good guys. I mean, they might do something that's, good.
Well, Doug Ford he's kind of he's like a Republican, I mean, he's a I don't want to say moderate right winger, but he's not a crazy right winger. His brother was just basically a drunk and a drug addict. But,
okay, and his brother was the one who was the mayor of Toronto?
As I recall,
right,
yeah, something like that. I mean, that was a decade ago or more. Did his brother die from his abusing his body?
I don't really know. But what I was going to say is that, if Canada, if Ontario was to take the 4.5 million barrels of oil that they sell daily to the U.S. and sell it to China, and cut off the electricity, the northeastern U.S. would be in chaos.
Yeah, well, it would just be wildly more expensive. Yes, the electricity.
Oh, right. Well, prices would go crazy because that's the way things happen. And if you can't supply your own electricity, we're losing. We have slipped from being a developed country to a third world country with a big military, and
Yeah, we're heading in that direction.
Areas.
Trump is turning us into Russia. I mean, Russia is like a gas station with atomic bombs. Don, thank you for the call. 44 and almost 45 minutes past the hour. I'll be right back with your calls.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
This is the place where smart people get their news. And welcome back. Alina in Redmond, Washington. Hey, Alina, what's on your mind today?
Hi, I just wanted to give everybody some good news. Once in a while, we have some. So the proposition for funding for social housing in Seattle, I called you about that maybe 3 weeks ago. I can't remember.
I recall.
It passed with flying colors, 63% of the vote.
Now, was this city council or state legislature?
It's no. This is it's a proposition. So we had a special elections. It's like an initiative.
So it's statewide?
Just for the city of Seattle.
Oh, it's citywide. Okay, got it.
Yeah. So what it does is it funds Vienna-style social housing in Seattle by taxing big business who had anybody on their payroll over $1 million. So whatever the amount over $1 million, that get taxed at 5%. So that will raise about $53 million a year to fund permanently affordable housing that will be in a trust, so it can never be sold to a for-profit developer.
Oh, that's marvelous.
And it will accommodate all kinds of income levels, from homeless people to moderate, middle class.
We're doing something in Oregon. I'm not sure if it's Portland or Multnomah County or if it's the whole state, but if you make over a certain amount, and I don't recall the amount, but I think it's $200,000-300,000, then you start paying a small tax, additional income tax, that goes to housing the homeless, basically.
I don't know about that, but democracy is still alive, and we
at least in Seattle.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I think the lesson from this is to just keep at it. We still have elections.
I agree. Great news,
Every
Alina.
chance we get.
Yeah, there you go. Alina, thank you so much. Robert in Caspian, Michigan. Hey, Robert, what's on your mind today?
Tom, this is Robert calling from the fascist Caspian, Michigan. Caspian town of Michigan. It's a fascist little town I'm living in. Real quick, I noticed all these protests, going on about anti-Trump and Tusk, how come none of it's on the big three networks, MSNBC, Fox News, and CNN? None of them is showing any of that. That's a theory. But to get back to what I really wanted to call you about, you got a pretty good theory going about the stock market going low, going high, going back low again, and crashing. For maybe Trump and his cronies can sell low and then turn around and buy high. I heard that yesterday. It was pretty interesting.
Yeah, well, they buy low and sell high. But yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I got another one for you there, Tom. Listen, he's trying to separate, over Ukraine. He doesn't really want to support Ukraine too much, and so he's not making, but all the European countries are going to increase their defense spending. They're going to increase their defense. They've already been talking about it.
Yep.
Now, when they increase their defense, they're going to start getting money. They're going to start buying defense mechanisms from this country, possibly.
Well, they already are, and now they're starting to freak out because they've discovered that F-35s and F-16s made in the United States have a kill switch in them, where the Pentagon can just push a button and suddenly American weapon systems in other countries are disabled. So if we were to ever formally align ourselves with Russia, all of this American military equipment, particularly the fighter jets and ships and things that have been bought by all these European countries over the years, would become basically boat anchors. And that's got the Europeans seriously freaked out. Robert, I got to run, but thank you for the call. Hey, thanks so much for sharing our program and for reaching out to our stations and sponsors and letting them know that you're listening. It really means a lot to us.
They built their empire brick by greed, while working hands met every need. The rules were bent, the truth ignored. The wealthy few now own the board. Musk and Bezos, their fortunes soar, while families struggle, wanting more. Congress trades on secret ties, oligarchs rise as freedom dies. 2025, the year of American oligarchy, where wealth reigns and power runs free. The dream they sold has turned to dust. For the rich, the system's just. Will we rise or fade away as democracy slips day by day?
10 minutes before the hour. Welcome back. Picking up your calls here. Chris in Champaign, Illinois. Hey, Chris, what's up? Thanks for listening to Sirius XM.
Hi, Tom. Thanks for taking my call. Sure. At the risk of belaboring this particular subject, some other people have spoke about it before I got on the air, but worth talking more and more about, and that is, I believe that Trump is an agent, of Russia.
Yeah, this is why I was so excited when Jeff Merkley, my senator, the other day asked two different Trump nominees for cabinet or for high positions if Trump was a Russian agent. And they were both kind of sputtering and refusing to answer the question, essentially.
Well, I think they found their useful idiot in Trump.
Yep.
Going back decades ago, there's plenty of information that's available. It might be spotty as to how relevant some of it is or accurate, but there's plenty of evidence that Trump intervened to help Putin intervened to help Trump when he was in financial difficulty.
Oh, in the 90s. And both of his sons have come out and said it. Both Eric and Don Jr. Have said back during the 90s when no American banks would lend to us, we got plenty of money from Russia.
Right. And so, I think we have to continue to beat on this so that people will pay attention to it.
Yeah, I agree.
That's the only thing I think that, there's plenty of things we can do to help ourselves, but educating yourself as to the facts regarding this I mean, this is big. This is bad.
No,
in so many ways.
I'm with you, Chris. I completely agree. And you know, QE, yeah, you're welcome. And QE bono, you know, the Latin phrase, who benefits? You look at the things that Trump is doing, you look at the things Musk is doing, whether it's domestic or foreign policy, and in both cases, the principal beneficiary of his actions are number one, Vladimir Putin, and number two, the billionaire class in America. And everybody else gets screwed. Chris, thank you. Denise in Seattle. Hey, Denise, what's on your mind today?
So I just wanted to talk more about the Social Security. Mm-hmm. And I think that what he's going to do is probably, well, people are fired up, so people are going to get out and protest on things that are happening now. Martial law, and then people, he starts taking Social Security, will be scared to protest about it because example of people from previous things. That's just my opinion.
I think you're right. I think that's what he'll try to do.
People aren't getting fired up yet.
Yeah.
Until they start taking their money.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it's all going to break loose.
Yep, I think you're right, Denise. And these cuts to Social Security, I mean, we always thought this was the third rail. It's crazy what they're doing right now and what they appear to be getting away with. Again, you know, there hasn't been an election in a while, so we really don't know how this is going to play out with the electorate. And it's going to be, you know, two more years, or a little short of 2 more years, before we can really find out. But it's grim stuff. Denise, thank you. Mike in Bremerton, Washington. Hey, Mike, what's up? Mike? Michael in San Francisco. Hey, Michael, what's on your mind today?
Hey, I don't know if we have a gauge yet on how many Democratic senators are planning to vote to increase the debt ceiling and basically...
So far, we know of one, John Fetterman.
Okay. But there's a lot of other ones that are on the fence, and they're not going to say to the... They need 8. Okay?
I know. Well, there's 3 Republicans who've come out and said they won't vote for it.
Is that a fact?
Yeah, Roger Wicker, Susan Collins, and Rand Paul.
And they're not just, you know, doing the, you know, the dance they do.
Well, it might be a song and dance. I mean, you know, we've got until Friday, so there's, you know, 2 more days.
Okay, well, let's see if they don't do what they usually do, which is Trump will say something about them, and then they'll immediately change them. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And that's the normal course of events when a Republican voices some common sense and some actual, you know, backbone. He comes out and says something really horrible about them,
right? And then you can it terrifies them, and they roll over. We'll see, Michael. I suspect you're right. I'm fairly cynical about the GOP these days and anything that has to do with Trump. But yeah, thank you, George in Cripple Creek, Virginia. Hey, George, you had the last minute and a half here in the program. What's up?
Hey, Tom. Yeah, I was wondering maybe Mr. Hitler can comment on this tomorrow. But there was an article in Investia quoting the chief of the Ukrainian Air Force saying the F-16s we in Holland and Denmark provided were 1980s productions and haven't been upgraded with the latest avionics and weapon systems, therefore can't go up against the latest Russian fighters such as the Sukhoi 35 and hadn't turned out to be the game changers they were originally expected.
Oh, no. I'm saddened to hear that, George.
Yeah, same here, I'll tell you. Yeah, they're saying they were basically...
So we're basically dumping our surplus equipment on them. This is like back in the 50s and 60s.
40-year-old fighters.
Yeah, this is like when you could buy a surplus, World War II surplus Jeep for $50 through the mail, you know?
Exactly, right.
So they're just dumping this stuff. Oh, that's terrible. Well, George, thank you. I always appreciate you bringing information to the program. Thank you for your call. Keep up the great work, and we'll talk again. It's, well, we're hitting the top of the hour. It's the end of the program for today. I'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. In the meantime, don't forget, democracy is not a spectator sport. It does require all of us. Indivisible.org, 5050.1, FIFTY.ONE are the 2 great organizing sites for protests across America. And of course, show up at your local Democratic Party. Tag You're It. Have a great afternoon. Be good to yourself and the people around you. I'll catch up with you tomorrow.
You've been listening to Thom Hartmann. For audio and video archives, visit thomhartmann.com.
Not only are the rich different from you,
In addition to bringing you the Thom Hartmann program here on Free Speech TV and Video Media Online, we also have a whole set of ways you can interact with us and tools you can use to spread the word about the importance of democracy and the threats to it in our republic. First, there's your daily homework. Sue Nethercutt puts together a daily email newsletter that has a link to every story I discuss on the air, so you can find my sources and you can share them with your friends. It's free and you can sign up at thomhartmann.com. Second, I publish my daily take every day over at the hartmannreport.com website. That's also free if you want the daily 5 days a week rant in your inbox. No ads either. Third, we have the podcasts. There's the free 1-hour version of our daily show that's advertising supported. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts normally. And then there's also the podcast of the entire 3-hour show with no advertisements, and that's available by subscription over at thomhartmann.com. So check them all out at thomhartmann.com and hartmannreport.com.
We say fight back!
Hey, it's day 3 here of the 2 weeks of our Spring Fund Drive here on Free Speech TV. And as always, Free Speech TV just has you. We really need your support, or Free Speech TV really needs your support. The funds go, straight to Free Speech TV, which is just, it's just amazing that we've got an entire television network here that's running on this little tiny budget. Some really dedicated people. Underpaid, overworked, and they're just doing great. The revolutionary figure highlight for the day, a new feature that the folks at Free Speech TV are sharing with us, is Chris Smalls. Chris Smalls wasn't some high-powered executive. He wasn't a politician. He was just a guy who was working at an Amazon warehouse. And when COVID hit and Amazon refused to protect its workers, Chris spoke up, and in return, Amazon fired him. Instead of disappearing, though, he got organized. He and his fellow workers built the first ever union at an Amazon facility. Amazon threw everything they had at him, spent millions of dollars on union busting, intimidation attacks, tactics, political attacks. But Chris and his team won anyway. So if you believe in workers' rights, if you believe in holding the powerful, people like Jeff Bezos, accountable, if you believe in independent media that doesn't answer to billionaires like Free Speech TV, then we need you to step up right now. There's a lot of ways you can contribute to Free Speech TV, or at least 2 big ways that you can contribute to Free Speech TV. One is to make a monthly gift. The other is to do a one-time gift. You can do both at the same time if you call 877-378-8669. The one-time gifts, there are premiums, gifts that you get for giving a gift. With a $20 gift, you have your choice of the Elect a Clown, Expect a Circus bumper sticker, or the This Is Not Normal bumper sticker. With a $120 gift, you have your choice of the Talking About Abolition book by Sonali, or my book, The Hidden History of the American Dream, autographed by the author. With a $1,000 gift, there's all 10 of my books in the Hidden History series, all 10 books, each autographed by the author. A great gift, by the way. Or you can come here to Portland and hang out with us and do a meet and greet. So while you are considering how much of a gift you're going to give, and whether you're going to do a one-time gift, or whether you're going to, sign up to make $15 a month, or $30 a month, or $70 a month, or whatever works with your particular finances, while you're considering that, I mentioned on the program yesterday Mario Savio. Mario Savio was arguably the leader of the free speech movement at Berkeley back in '64 and '65. And this is a movement that really inspired student activism literally all around the world and led directly to the major anti-Vietnam War protests and teach-ins and sit-ins and all kinds of other things that many of us participated with back in the 66, 67, 60, really 67, 68, through the early 70s when finally the Vietnam War was ended. So here is Mario Savio at Berkeley, at California's Berkeley campus, explaining the importance of civil disobedience. Here it is.
So here we are. 4 students are getting the axe. 6 organizations are getting the axe for standing up this semester and for fighting for these things. They're getting the axe not for what they did, but for what we have done. They spoke for us. They were part of us. They have been singled out, and they're going to be chopped off.
We were told the following: if President Kerr actually tried to get something more liberal out of the regents in his telephone conversations, why didn't he make some public statement to that effect? And the answer we received from a well-meaning liberal was the following. He said, would you ever imagine the manager of a firm making a statement publicly in opposition to his board of directors? That's the answer. Well, I ask you to consider, if this is a firm, and if the Board of Regents are the Board of Directors, and if President Kerr, in fact, is the manager, then I tell you something, the faculty are a bunch of employees, and we're the raw materials. But we're a bunch of raw materials that don't mean to have any process upon us, don't mean to be made into any product, don't mean to end up being bought by some clients of the university, be they the government, be they industry, be they organized labor, be they anyone, or human beings. There's a time when the operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part. And you've got to put your bodies upon the gears and upon the wheels, upon the levers, upon all the apparatus, and you've got to make it stop. And you've got to indicate to the people who run it, to the people who own it, that unless you're free, the machine will be prevented from working at all.
There you go, Mario Savio. He passed away from a heart attack in 1996, by the way. But the student movements, this is specifically on the program yesterday, I was referencing the arrest of Mahmoud Khalil by the Trump administration, apparently signed off on by our Secretary of State, the former senator from Florida. This is anyhow, this is the Free Speech TV fundraiser, not my program. So please call now, 877-378-8669, or go to freespeech.org/donate and make your contribution now. It's important. Thank you.